Aero-News Network's coverage of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International's Exponential 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonic's Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Aero-News live coverage from Exponential 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. I'm Tom Patton. Thanks very much for joining us on this Wednesday morning. Very happy to be with you. It's like I'm back in radio. I'm doing the morning show again. It's just delightful. My guest here for this first segment of our program is Dan Edwards. And Dan is I'm going to read your title here, Dan.
Sure.
Is the principal investigator of the Solar Soaring program for the Naval Research Labs. And I don't even know where to begin with you, so I'm just going to let you talk about what kind of solar soaring programs there are that NRL is working for.
Sure. So we have a couple different things we're putting together for solar soaring. The first is solar photovoltaics, trying to look at integrating solar into the composite structures for good aerodynamics and as well as low weight. And the solar really gives you the ability to fly during the daytime, basically for free. You're using energy from the atmosphere. The other half of that is autonomous soaring. So I'm sure your audience knows aviation, and everyone sees birds fly, and they fly around doing circles without flapping their wings. So we have taught a computer to do the same thing. It knows how to find thermals, just like the man in the loop. It's feeling the variometer, it's trying to identify where the center of the lift is, and again, gain energy from the atmosphere.
Well, you've brought one item here that we'll do the show and tell here
Sure.
first. And this is a glider, and I'm sure Bree can probably get in pretty close on that. But tell us about this glider and what its function is.
This is a cicada. I don't know if you remember a number of years back in Washington, D.C., there was a cicada brood 2, the infestation.
We had those in Indiana too, and I'm sure you had them in North Carolina.
Absolutely. You basically couldn't walk anywhere without stepping on them. And one of my colleagues said, if each of those had a microphone, we could never have a private conversation. So that was the idea for the cicada program. It was overwhelmed with quantity with relatively low quality sensors. This is the Cicada Mark V, 5th in line, and it is a glider. It has no motor, so you drop it from the sky. It's not a great flyer. L over D is about 3 to 1, but it emplaces a sensor where you want it to. So just like a cicada, you drop it, it flies, cicada would mate, we do the sensing, and that's the end of the life.
And how is it controlled? Is it an autonomous glider?
It is. It has 2 control surfaces on the wing. These are normal elevons, so move together for pitch control and differentially for roll. And there's an autopilot actually built into the wing. So the wing structure here, this is the autopilot as well as the aerodynamic surface. And that guides the aircraft down.
But you say you've got other projects as well that sound very interesting. And one of them that really intrigues me is you mentioned a flying submarine.
That's correct.
And we don't have a picture, unfortunately, of the flying submarine, and it may be classified, I don't know. But tell me about flying submarines.
So we do a lot of odd projects, that's for sure. Out of the box, NRL is supposed to be looking 5-10 years into the future. What kinds of technologies would be useful to a warfighter in the future? One of the ideas is a flying underwater glider. So underwater gliders have existed for a while. They have a buoyancy engine, no motor. Basically they pump water to descend just like a sailplane would through the air, use wings to move forward, and they can do the same on the reverse. So it's hydrodynamics. We're trying to combine that with aerodynamics to fly. There's some interesting overlap to play. Weight's very critical, buoyancy is very critical, and those are a tough trade.
So is that in a situation where you would use it as a glider to deploy it until it went into the water and then it becomes a submarine? Because obviously you're not going to come back up out of the water and fly.
For this program, no, we're not trying to get back out. We've done other aircraft that come out of tubes that fly out of the water. For this one, we're looking specifically at flying ingress. So fly over the water very rapidly to in place right where you want to be, and then stay on station as an underwater glider for long durations.
When we look at things like the cicada that you brought, and we hear a lot coming out of, say, for instance, DARPA about drone swarms and things of that nature, is that something that NRL is also working on, that you can, that they will have large groups of drones that can either operate as a unit or autonomously to perform missions?
For cicada, we have communications to go back and forth. They certainly could do some inter-vehicle communication. We've kind of gone on the philosophy that, at least for cicada, that it's okay to not communicate. It is a big sky. If they bump on launch, we drop a bunch at the same time, that's okay. You lose a couple, that's fine if you're dropping 100. There's certainly other research going on at NRL looking at autonomy in swarms and how do you do the human-machine interaction.
And could those also be in a solar-powered configuration, that you would have large groups of small drones that were all basically powered for free?
For sure. We've done cooperative autonomous soaring as a partnership with Pennsylvania State University, where we had 2 aircraft that were communicating just like birds do. I look over and see Bob's going up, I guess I'll go to his thermal. Do that same thing, communicating, I have a better thermal, you come to me. There's a cloud over this area, so don't go over there.
There's also been, in the larger aircraft, at least in the commercial side, we've seen a lot of solar-powered aircraft that are intended to be high altitude, long endurance, basically atmospheric satellites. Is this something also that you're looking at as part of your solar program that can bring that technology to the military, or is it technology that's grown out of the military that has gone into the commercial sector?
I won't speak to the high altitude flying programs, those aren't me. We're focused on the low atmosphere, 0 to 10,000 feet, let's say, where the convective activity is strong, and trying to really open up what we can do at those lower altitudes. Solar and the combination soaring is a fun way to do it. At the much higher altitudes, you just don't have the convection. There's different wind currents, and maybe there's some potential there, but
that's not my department, as they say.
A little
in Washington.
bit. You have to focus research on something specific.
Sure. So what else are you working on?
We have a whole host of other projects. We do a lot of work. So my group is the vehicle research section, and we're actually in tactical electronic warfare division, but we do work with a number of other divisions around the lab. We've worked a lot with chemistry, doing fuel cell propulsion systems for unmanned aircraft, And we've worked a lot recently with the electronics division doing the solar cell integration. How do you go from a single cell to an array to the integrated product, and then combine with the rest of the aircraft systems?
When you look at, particularly in solar power, and that technology has come a long way in just the past few years. The solar cells have gotten a lot more efficient. How much power can you now, or how many solar cells, where it used to be an entire wing or an entire aircraft covered in solar cells, has that gotten to the point where it takes a lot fewer of them and that brings down the cost?
Depends on your mission a little bit. If you just want to support flight, maybe say you want to run payloads without having to burn fuel or your battery, you could get away with less solar. Solar efficiency is definitely getting better, but for aircraft it's still ideal to cover as much of the aircraft as you can within reason. There's some weight trades to play there.
And then bring that down for the guy like me who pays taxes to fund this kind of research. What is the benefit of having these kinds of research projects, and without giving away company secrets, or in this case government secrets, where does that go in a year or 5 years?
Everything that we do is to support the warfighter. So we are looking to offload risk, let's say, from a Marine, instead of having the Marine's position exposed multiple times by multiple takeoffs and landings. If that Marine can launch once, fly all day, land after dark, not give away his position, we would consider that a winning scenario. And that's a reason to go fly longer.
So what you're talking about then is an aircraft, for instance, that's deployed in the field that can be either hand launched or catapult launched to get enough flying speed to begin to go out and find its thermals and fly, and then basically stay on station all day, providing reconnaissance and ISR.
In this case, yes. We do a lot of wacky tube-launched aircraft. We have a tube-launched helicopter at the show we're showing for the first time. Tube-launched airplanes, all sorts of weird ways to get into the air.
So describe a tube launch then, because that's something I hadn't heard about.
Sure. So we have in particular an aircraft that comes out of a canister that's in the water, opens a cap, the airplane flies up and out, and then does its mission. Similar for the flying helicopter program. There's a tube that's a specific size and specific length, and we stuffed a helicopter into that, basically. Launches and unfolds and flies away.
Sounds like interesting stuff. I guess what I'm trying to get to is I know that this technology is going to develop very quickly. How much do you pull out of, because you're at a consumer drone show, basically, consumer unmanned show, how much of this can be done in like commercial off-the-shelf technology? How much of it is being developed specifically by Naval Research Labs?
That's a good question. We do draw heavily from what industry does. So the fact that the cell phone in your pocket has very small parts, all of those parts or pieces of them end up in things like the Cicada, where miniaturization really makes a difference for what we can do on the research side. And the same would go for many of the vehicles here. The launch concepts, the whole quadcopter, multi-rotor business is helping make our jobs easier in some ways, and we have to look that much farther down the road as well.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for taking some time to join us this morning. It's been an interesting chat, and it looks a little Chinese, but that's only because of the color of it.
Any color you want.
Okay, as long as it's black, I guess, like it used to be for the rotary telephones. But Dan, thank you so much for coming to chat with us, and good luck, and I hope you have a productive show.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Mike Uzakai, Public Safety Flight Instructor, and that's all coming up next from the K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. It's not AEA, I'm on the wrong show. It's AUVSI Exponential 2017. We'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back to the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center, where it's AUVSI Exponential 2017. We're live on Aero TV. I'm Tom Patton, and I'm chatting now with Mike Uleski from Dart Drones. And Mike, I understand that you're in the business of teaching people involved in public safety how to get better use out of the aircraft that they're buying now. Just a lot of good training. Tell us about how you got into this business.
I started in aviation when I was 17, got my private pilot's license, went to Embry-Riddle, decided I was going to be a commercial pilot. Sadly, the industry definitely changed, so I got into the engineering side. I was engineering aircraft parts for mostly general aviation, business aviation. Sadly, company closed in 2008, so I made a career change, went into public safety. I started as a police officer, and then the agency that I work for is actually a true public safety, so they sent me to fire school and EMS school, so now I'm cross-certified as police. I'm a sergeant shift supervisor, and then I'm also a firefighter, and then on top of that, an EMT. So the nice thing is, especially working into the UAV world, is that I've got all three of those backgrounds. So for training, police departments is different than what you would train a fire department, is what you would train someone that's using it for EMS and search and rescue. So I'm able to see a few different faucets rather than just one single one.
What is the kind of the inroads that UAVs are making into the public safety arena? Is it becoming a far more common thing to have a police department or a fire department have an aircraft like this?
Getting more common, but it's still there's roughly 18,000 police agencies across the United States. 800 of them have manned aviation units. That's it. So it's about 4% roughly. So it's relatively low. The problem is that a lot of the agencies that don't have any background in aviation, when they start looking into utilizing UAVs and they start seeing FAA regulations and state regulations and everything else and training, they get a little bit bogged down. So we see a lot of them kind of stall. So that's where we're trying to step in and provide that intermediary, because a lot of them want to go and purchase and then go straight to operations. They're missing that training component, and that's why we're seeing them getting crashed into vehicles, and usually the program fails. So what we're trying to do is provide that training program and standard operating procedures so that they get that clear cut, this is what you need to do to get your program up and running, and then also offer the continued training support down the road so that way they can add new certifications. So our basic course is going to get them up and running, but then we're also offering night operations, because night operations is a completely different world, but for public safety, that's our bread and butter. That's most of our day. So we're going to be offering the advanced stuff as well, so that way once they get the basic down, now we can take them out into the field and start working on those advanced programs once they get that experience. So eventually we're looking at where it would be almost a certification program, where they would actually have to take my guys will have about 12 hours of stick time and have to take a certification test prior to being released authorized, because I'm the chief UAS pilot for my agency that I created, our division. And it's liability. We got to get the people trained rather than just throwing them out there with, hey, it goes up in the air, congratulations, good luck.
Is there partly a perception that, and the aircraft have been marketed this way, particularly at the $1,000, $1,500 end of the spectrum, that they're just easy to fly, and so they feel like they can go out and, okay, there it is, push the button, it syncs up and off it goes, and they don't really understand what it takes to control an aircraft?
Definitely, and especially when you start trying to explain to them that you need to now understand that the FAA considers you an aircraft and they consider you a pilot, and all the responsibilities and roles that go along with that are now included. It's not go to Best buy your Phantom 3, put it up in the air and start doing search and rescue work. There's a lot that goes into it, and especially with public safety, unlike some of the other industries where you can kind of pick your day and you can pick your time and the weather's nice and okay, it's raining out, we're not going to go. We don't have that option. We have to fly because when we're looking at life safety issues, so you're looking at maybe higher wind conditions than what a commercial UAV pilot would be comfortable with, but when it comes down to life safety, we don't have that choice. But we have to make sure that we have the training and can mitigate the safety issues that comes along with it. So even like night operations, it has a higher level of risk. That's our goal, is to go and provide the training that goes and covers that so that they understand what happens if you lose video feed at night. Can you recover the aircraft? What happens if you lose GPS? Can you bring it back? So then that way it's not necessarily training people for when everything goes right, it's training for people when they're going wrong. So,
are you finding that law enforcement and public safety agencies are buying the consumer grade drones, or are they moving more towards the larger, more expensive aircraft like we're seeing a lot of here at this show that would require that additional training?
Right now they're looking at small scale, primarily because they're dipping their toe in the water. They want to see what can this do for us. So typically we're seeing agencies pick up Phantoms, Inspires, even the Mavic is becoming quite popular, primarily because it's an off-the-shelf, it's a commercial product, it has good customer support, and it does what they need it to do. The higher stuff, when you start getting into the Matrice platform, mostly that's going to be your larger agencies and also ones that can get a grant. Because when you start talking, when you go to finance and you tell them, hey, this thing's $25,000 and we could crash it next week, finance is like, why don't you buy this $1,000 one and see how it goes?
See if you really need it.
And then we'll go from there. But the thing is, even the Inspire One, it's a workhorse platform. Ours, where I work, it's equipped with a payload delivery device, because my agency is Daytona Beach Shores. We're right along the boat, the beach side, and we work with Beach Patrol. So we're looking to be able to utilize it for water rescue. So that way, not only can we find a victim, but we can also deliver a life preserver to them until Beach Patrol is able to launch a jet ski. So we're looking at those life safety issues. And the Inspire One, it's a $1,900 out-of-the-box unit that's capable of doing that. And the maintenance is extremely low. Dollars per hour is extremely low. Why not have it? It's just a matter of the training to have a pilot that's actually capable of utilizing it.
Now, you mentioned at the beginning of the segment that there's different training that's required for a fire department or a police department or an SAR situation. What are some of those differences in the training?
Some of the big differences, especially in the law enforcement world, is we deal a lot more with the legislation that's come out across either state or city. So it can be kind of a patchwork, because certain cities with the privacy concerns have come out, and it's definitely gone to the point where you have to be careful, because you may be violating constitutional law by capturing images depending on how the statute went. The fire side, for the most part, it's mostly intelligence gathering for the fire. But what we've also seen is it's almost kind of a cross, because when I'm on a police scene, staffing's relatively tough right now in the law enforcement industry. So when we have a perimeter set up, I don't necessarily want to lose a police officer to operate the UAV, because now he's out. And if it's nighttime, I still lose a visual observer. So if I only have a shift of 4, I've just lost 2. What we're seeing is that a lot of times when the police department works very well with the fire department, is that we'll cross-train, so then that way, when we have a police incident, we can have the fire department respond and operate the drone. We're not losing a police element. And then on the flip side, when we have a structure fire type incident, I can train that police officer to get the intel that command officer needs to know what decisions, is the roof going to collapse at this point. And then the fire department doesn't lose a firefighter that they need for the structural component of fighting the fire. So they are different, because in a fire, I need to know where can I operate safely, because now you have updrafts and downdrafts because of the fire conditions. You have smoke plume. If it's wildfire, it could be distance. So there are differences between the two, but you want to also cross-train. So it's still public safety, but there are elements that are a little bit different between the two.
How difficult is it for your company to keep up with, you mentioned the state laws and even local jurisdictions where there are requirements for warrants and things of that nature before a law enforcement entity can go out and use its aircraft to gather evidence?
It's mostly research. We go to the agency when we do our public safety training. We don't have them come to us, primarily because then I can go and evaluate what airspace they're dealing with, what authorizations are they going to need, should they go the COA route or the 107 route, what works for them. But on top of it, I also go and do a real quick research of what state laws, because in Florida we happen to have the Unwarranted Surveillance Act that we have to deal with. So Florida's a little different. Some states we go to and it's open season. You could use it for just about anything. I just put in a little bit of time to make sure that I know what laws are currently, and then I also let them know what's coming up, because that very well may go and influence your buying decision, because if you purchase this thing this month and then the laws completely change next month, your program might be out of service before you even got it up and running.
Do you ever see a time when that might have a more federal umbrella for what can be done by local law enforcement agencies, or is that always going to be a state-by-state and even local jurisdiction decision?
I think it's going to take a while, because it seems like the locals like to have control, primarily because depending on how the feeling is of the people that live in that community, it's gotten better. My community, I flew for Hurricane Matthew. 2 days after Hurricane Matthew, I was doing building inspections and damage survey. Building department loved it, but on top of it, we evacuated the beach side. So no one was allowed on the beach side until we cleared it. So the residents were all very concerned. They couldn't see what was going on. What we did was I produced a short little 5-minute video we put up on our agency's Facebook page, and it went absolutely viral, because then people were able to see what got damaged, what didn't get damaged. It's more, you have to cultivate that within your community of the acceptance, and then you don't have those issues. It's when you have that kind of fear. So I try to tell the agencies, don't create your UAV program in the dark. Involve your citizens, involve your community policing individuals who go out to events. Take the drone out, fly it, show it what it can capably do. Because a lot of people, they think that it's got X-ray vision, it's looking through walls, it's going to be hovering through my window. And then when they see the reality of it and they start to see what the benefits are towards the public safety side, you usually get a lot more freedom out of it. And they're like, oh yeah, we support that program. And now you've shifted. So my jurisdiction where I work, the people love it, because they've seen what we can do with it and they know we're using it responsibly.
Do you see that the drone is going to supplant, in many cases, the manned aviation departments of law enforcement agencies, or create a situation where a lot more law enforcement agencies can have an aviation presence?
I would like to see within 2 to 5 years the majority of law enforcement agencies having at least one UAV available with one trained pilot. Because the advantages that it gives, even for something as simple, how many times I've had to go up on roofs searching for evidence, and we usually have to call the fire truck to come out, pull up the ladder and crawl up on the roof. Why not have a DJI Mavic that can go up and do a real quick scan, see what's up? It saves me time, it saves me effort, it's safer. But I mean, like I was saying, even for active shooter situations, I'm looking at big box store with an active shooter. Why not send in a UAV in front of your entry team and be able to at least provide them intel of, is aisle 6 clear? Can I send them there without being ambushed? Because it's become a very big fear of ours from law enforcement, because we've seen recently ambush tactics have become very common. So it's that intelligence is just absolutely paramount to what we do, and it creates such a more safe environment for us to operate.
We're just about out of time, but I do want to give you an opportunity, because I know you're doing some training demonstrations here at Exponential. So talk about that just briefly.
Here we're going to be, if you visit our table over at 2:30, basically we have an outline of what we're doing, and it shows our 3-day program, which is what I've developed, and it's a good balance. And what it's designed to do is take people from zero experience, absolutely none, to where they're put into a team on day 2, so they're a visual observer and they're a pilot, and they go back and forth to actually doing a scenario search and rescue at the end. So we have some examples over there if anyone's interested and wants to come over and see what we're up to.
Okay, Mike, well great, thanks very much. We appreciate taking some time. It's still early, I'm getting my mouth going here this morning, but very interesting stuff, and it really shows kind of part of what the power of these aircraft are and how they can be used in everyday situations. So we appreciate what you do. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That's Mike Uleski with Dart Drones, and we're going to come right back with more from AEA 2017. AEA, I did it again. From AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We're live on Aero TV at AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. I'm Tom Patton, and it might as well be Oshkosh. Joining me is John Monnett, president of Sonic's Aircraft.
Yeah, it just has a roof over it.
It has a roof over it, yeah. It's
deal.
not Wisconsin, it's Texas.
No, that's right.
But John, interestingly, Sonic's has kind of gotten into the unmanned aircraft business. What made you go from being one of the premier producers of kit airplanes in the country to say, we need to be in this unmanned business?
Well, actually, the genesis for this is a long time ago. Actually, the first show like this I attended in 1985. And it was the year that Ballard brought the first the first video of the Titanic. It was the first public display, which was really interesting. But I was there to acquire information on the systems that fly the airplanes. We had a little airplane called a Moni back then. It's a little motor glider that was a natural for an unmanned vehicle, but found out that there just wasn't the technology for it then. So we've kind of come full circle, and it's kind of funny because I started out flying model airplanes like everybody else, and radio control back in '59. I had my first radio controlled airplane, and I'm kind of coming full circle now.
What does it take to convert one of the Sonic's aircraft into an unmanned vehicle?
Well, there's a lot of, in the systems, it seems relatively simple, and it actually is, because our airplanes are pretty versatile. Because they're metal, it doesn't take a lot of special. We can put fittings on, we can change the control systems, to servos instead of push rods, etc. So that transition is really interesting. Of course, we have our Taros here that we built for NASC, and that is going to progress into a B model version of that. And then we have some other airplanes that are based on earlier designs that make a lot of sense and probably will outperform almost everything here.
Now, are you building basically from the kits that you use for manned airplanes, or are they scaled down versions?
No, actually the Taros is a version of our Xenos motor glider, so many of the parts are interchangeable, but there are certain different requirements for the unmanned vehicle, camera mounts, larger fuel. So we're trading protoplasm for fuel in those airplanes, so they have a long endurance.
But the weight exchange, it's just an exchange.
Yes, exactly.
Take the pilot out and put in next to
the airplane isn't any heavier at gross than normal, and the Aero-V that we have, the turbocharged Aero-V is adequate for that airplane.
But I also saw that there's kind of like a little Subsonics, the jet version of a UAV.
And of course these are concept deals that need to be developed, but it's a natural. The jet version, of course, it has to go fast because it's designed as an acquisition airplane, meaning that if the fleet, for instance, is out with a carrier fleet, it's used to practice their radar acquisition to see if a cruise missile is coming, whatever. So it has to go fast. And again, we're trading fuel and putting another engine on it, so it'll fly in the 350-mile-an-hour range.
How are people accepting in this community basically what has traditionally been a manned aircraft company?
It remains to be seen, I guess. It just makes so much sense that, I mean, we're not making a UAV out of, say, a Cessna 172 or something like that, but our airplanes are, especially like the Xenos, is a natural because first it's a motor glider to start with. It can operate at high altitude, and with the changing the fuel, etc., it has a really long loiter time, 17 hours. So it's very suited for the kind of job that needs to be done.
Of course, Aurora Flight Sciences has been doing that for years with a DA-42 that they converted into an optionally piloted vehicle. And so do you see that in the future for Sonic's, that something might be optionally piloted?
Yes, absolutely. In areas where it has to operate, it can be done with a pilot in the cockpit and not. We haven't configured the first one that way because the first one, of course, is going through testing, and we're advancing on that, but that makes absolute sense.
Will you eventually build specific UAVs? I mean, obviously you're coming into this from the airplanes that you have, but you're looking at
Right. Even the Block 4 airplane, which is the next version of the Tiger Shark, is really purpose-built, but it's based on an airplane like the Moni.
Right.
But a lot different, retracting gear, and it's a shoulder wing instead of a low wing, etc. But the basic geometry is based on the same thing, but it's designed for a different job.
When you go to flight test one of the UAVs, what is it? How does that process differentiate from flight testing a manned airplane?
Well, that's where NASC comes in. We're building airframes. They have the technology and the knowledge to fly these airplanes. They even have a training program to train what are unmanned vehicle pilots, and so their system is that, and what we're doing is upgrading their airframe so they have even more capability. So it's not hard. It's interesting. And I suppose we're gonna find a lot of that out, because right now we're in the baby step mode.
Is all of that taking place at your facility in Oshkosh?
No, you'll be at a flight test facility out east.
What is the mission for a Sonex-based unmanned aircraft?
Well, there's a lot of not only military, but they see it as a pipeline, on-station, even border patrol kind of operation. So that can be tethered to other acquisition vehicles that work pretty well. So it's versatile, and the thing about the Taros that we have here is it can be configured in many ways that, say, other very famous UAVs can't easily be changed. So it can swap missions easily.
Well, it's very interesting stuff, John, and I know it's been something of a departure, even though you said it's been kind of a long time coming, but it's one of the things that I'm hoping, being out of the manned aircraft world, that there are things that you learn working in the unmanned realm that you can transfer and maybe help push the manned aircraft realm forward a little bit as well.
Right. It's all of my airplanes and that we've built over the years have always been niche airplanes. We've done motor gliders, we've done little gliders, we've done racers, and the normal Sonics, which is kind of an average airplane. And what we find out with the new things, the jet and beyond, will bring that knowledge back to our mainstay of business.
Well, we certainly look forward to seeing you in July. We'll all be in Wisconsin, so we'll
I'll be there. I'm always there.
I know, you're always just right across the airfield, so that'll be an easy thing. But John, thanks very much for taking some time to talk with us. Interesting stuff you've got going on with Sonex in the unmanned world, so thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
That's John Monett, who's president of Sonex Aircraft. When we come back, Jim Campbell will be in this chair at AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison
Aero-News Network's coverage of AUVSI's Exponential 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonex Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonic's Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonexaerospace.com.
Continental Motors Group. Manned and unmanned, Continental has been a pivotal part of aviation and aerospace history and wants to be a part of your mission. Gas or diesel, certified or experimental, Continental is investing in your future. www.continentalmotors.aero.
Welcome to the Aero-News Network's Airborne-Unmanned program, a news program covering all things unmanned in partnership with AUVSI, the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, the world's largest nonprofit organization devoted exclusively to advancing the unmanned systems and robotics community, serving more than 7,500 members from government organizations, industry, and academia. The unmanned systems industry is growing rapidly by the hour, so it requires news coverage that can keep up. The partnership between AUVSI and Aero-News Network helps provide that coverage. Airborne-Unmanned is produced by the Aero-News Network, the first 24/7, 365 real-time online aviation news service, now entering its third decade of daily news production. ANN has produced more than 350,000 news stories, 7,000 podcasts, 3,000 Aero TV features, and just over 1,000 episodes of Airborne Unlimited, a daily aviation and aerospace news program expertly hosted by myself, Laura Hudson, and Christopher Odom, under the direction of Aero TV producer Nathan Cremasino. AUVSI President and CEO Brian Wynne explains that, quote, "Since it was founded in 1973, AUVSI has been dedicated to the advancement of the unmanned systems and robotics community. Today, the association remains committed to those founding principles by fostering the technical and commercial success of its members." Through this partnership with Aero-News Network to produce Airborne-Unmanned, AUVSI is expanding its reach to provide news and information about this growing and thriving industry. Airborne-Unmanned will complement our existing communications channels, including Unmanned Systems Magazine and the Daily eBrief, to keep AUVSI's members and the entire community informed of the latest technology innovations, business transactions, and public policy that are supporting the safe deployment and implementation of unmanned systems throughout the world. Manufacturers, personnel, educators, and companies working in the unmanned vehicle sphere are encouraged to reach out to ANN in order to introduce themselves and learn more about the Airborne Unmanned effort by emailing jim@aero-news.net or calling our offices at 863-299-8680. Episodes of Airborne Unmanned may be most directly viewed via airborne-unmanned.net. We look forward to working with the entire AUVSI Unmanned community through our airborne programming.
Alrighty, good morning from day 2 of AUVSI's Exponential 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. We're fortunate to be able to call upon the expertise of Chad Boudreau of the Academy of Model Aeronautics. In the drone space, from what we've been able to see so far, there are two powerhouse organizations, AMA on the hobby and recreational drone side, and AUVSI obviously on the commercial side.
Right.
Chad, let's talk about the state of the industry as far as AMA sees it at this point. What's happening out there?
Sure. So the industry's changing. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you were at the keynote where Administrator Huerta was talking about how quickly this industry is moving. And he shared a stat that every 10 to 15 years, there's a new platform in manned aviation, whereas every year we see at least 10 to 15 in the UAS industry each year. So it's moving quickly, and regulators are really trying to grapple this industry and how they can keep the airspace safe. So we're seeing as I mentioned earlier, new platforms out on this showroom floor. Some exciting new stuff here. So the industry is moving quickly. Regulators are trying to figure it out. And the users, the end users, are kind of caught in the middle of wanting to engage in this new technology and use it, and still kind of keep an eye as to what regulators are doing.
Puts AMA in a really interesting spot because to a certain extent, the hobby drone industry has been 1, innovative,
right,
2, pervasive, and 3, just no end in sight. And yet there's no question that whatever regulatory environment ultimately arises from here based on what's happened so far has to include a phenomenal population of hobby drone users. Puts you in the hot seat, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And you know, our perspective, if you go back even to 2010, 2012, when we were working on the special rule for model aircraft, that rule really isn't designed to be a get out of jail free card for hobbyists. The intent is everyone still must fly responsibly, must fly safely, must comply with regulations. But there's a carve-out stating that if you operate within the programming of a community-based organization, so within and you follow the programming, so if you're an AMA member, for example, and you're competing in a national competition, there's a carve-out where you can operate above and beyond some of the guidelines of the FAA, in coordination with the FAA, of course. Mm-hmm. It was never designed to be a situation where hobbyists can go fly like the Wild West, mm-hmm, wherever they intended. They still have to be held accountable to a group like the AMA. So when we see hobbyists out there, you know, that's kind of the message we want to take in, is that we want to encourage that. We want to foster growth. We want to get people out here who are excited, who are hobbyists. Get in, come fly, but be responsible. And either join a group like the AMA, join a group like AUVSI, follow FAA rules, do it responsibly.
From, excuse me, from your exposure so far here at AUVSI, what are the lessons, excuse me, good grief, that you take out of this trade show that your membership needs to know?
One, this industry is moving very quickly. It's moving at a rapid pace.
Light speed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
2 is that there are a lot of members who enjoy this hobby. We have a lot of fun flying in our backyard, and we're now learning I can make a living doing this. I can get paid to have fun. So almost every minute, I don't want to say every minute, but it's nonstop encounters with members here at this show who are saying, here's some exciting stuff I'm doing. Here's a startup I'm launching, or here's a company that just hired me to fly. So we're seeing a lot of crossover of members who are hobbyists who are now doing commercial work.
It's interesting. I've got a number of friends in the hobby drone community up in the Jacksonville area who are now working commercially. Some are doing some pretty heavy duty work right now. But the skill set that they've learned in working with RC and working with the early hobby drone segment and then maturing to where it is now has been quite valuable to them in regards to going out and finding work.
Right, exactly. And that's when you can go to an employer or any of these booths out here and state, hey, I've been flying UAS for 30 years, for 10 years.
Yep.
That has a lot of credibility. And
it does indeed.
You'll capture their interest. And then to couple that and say, not only that, but you know, I've been flying under a strict safety code, and you can demonstrate your pre-flight checklist and how you really take safety and responsibility as a high priority.
We've had this conversation before where the pluses and minuses seem to be fighting each other out for prominence. What do you see right now as the more positive aspects of what's occurring at the moment, and where do you see concerns?
So let's end on the promising, because that's always a better note to end on. Some of the concerns we're seeing is frustration with the legislative level. On the city, local level, state level, federal level. They're really trying to wrap their head around how to keep the airspace safe, but also people and property on the ground safe.
Although some of it's been horrendously arbitrary.
Oh, exactly.
One real estate person gets themselves in a knit, and they convince the entire city council to come up with absolutely draconian drone restrictions until everybody finds out it's one person with one complaint.
Well, you go along the New Jersey shoreline. You start at the very top.
Yeah.
There's a group of students who used model aircraft for a STEM application, and they won awards and accolades for that. You go all the way down to the southern part of New Jersey, and they're rolling out the welcome mat. They want to become the hub, the new Silicon Valley of UAS. But right in the middle, there's a community that just, exactly, they're really trying to wrestle with how to regulate this, almost to the point where they essentially ground the entire community and just shut down any UAS activity. So you see great use cases, and then you see those who are really trying to struggle with it. And it is very problematic.
We were talking to Earl Lawrence yesterday about the issues involved in preemption, and a number of other people. Of course, we talked to Brian Wynne as well. That's not an issue that's going to be solved anytime soon, and yet ultimately it has a simple solution. There just has to be a dividing line.
Are you talking about dividing line in the air?
Yes.
So that's interesting, because I sit on the DAC subcommittee, and I'm part of a task group, and that task group is designed to figure out the roles and responsibilities of state and local government. Because you're right, maybe there is a middle ground somewhere. Yeah. Right now, the law of the land is federal preemption. Everything from a blade of grass up is FAA and FAA exclusive.
Just needs to be properly defined.
Exactly. Maybe there's a middle ground, and does that mean an imaginary line in the sky, or does that mean empowering local law enforcement? We don't,
Yeah. It just needs to be understood.
And I would encourage your viewers to keep a close eye on the DAC, the Drone Advisory Committee. This year, we're really tasked to start releasing some initial guidance as to where that balance is with this task group. So you're right, there is a middle ground probably somewhere, and hopefully we identify that sooner than later.
How is AMA's role in all this evolving? I think to a certain extent, everybody got caught a little bit by surprise by how this industry exploded. I guess is the only proper word for it. Although, well, you guys certainly stepped in fairly quickly, and on top of it, made a bunch of very good moves at a time when it was critical to do so. But how is this role evolving for you right now?
So it's interesting. This is not our first rodeo. We've been around for 80 years. Before control line. And so we learned how to embrace control line. We were around before remote control, and remote control was a game shifter. And there were a lot of people who were concerned about how can that be safe, and how can we do it safely? How can someone control a model without actually? So, and then you get into different platforms such as helicopters and electrics. So this is not the first time a new platform's been introduced. But with that being said, this is obviously a major game changer. So we are trying to be much more nimble and writing safety programming to accommodate this. And that means attending trade shows like this so we could see what's the next new innovation, so we could start preparing our safety programming to accommodate that new platform. So that's one way we're being nimble. We're also relying more on our partnerships with groups like you, partnerships with other manufacturers, and having close working relationships with those, so we could have a close ear to the ground as to what's on the horizon, what's coming down. And then being involved at the legislative level. More than ever before, we're working closely with federal groups such as the Drone Advisory Committee, but even industry-led groups like the UAS safety team.
I would imagine it's got to be kind of an extraordinary juggling act at times. But AMA in particular has quantified a specific rationale for now, and worked some amazing programs between Know Before You Fly and so forth, that have allowed some people to at least retain some sanity as we go forward and try to build an industry that just seems to have no end in sight. The partnership angle to me seems critical, and I'm glad to see that. So let's talk about the ultimate partnership here.
Right.
FAA, how are they doing?
Part 107. We're glad to see that come out. That was encouraging. 333, Section 333. I get the intent with that, but it did stifle innovation. It did stifle use, and 107 really was a great a great component to this industry that the FAA announced. So we're seeing the FAA becoming more and more nimble than they ever have, just like AMA is. I mean, you have to. This industry's moving quickly.
You have no choice.
Exactly.
Drag kicking and screaming maybe, but definitely you have no choice.
Well, and what's happening is it's forcing other companies to go overseas and start developing their products and testing their products. And America really, we're a global society now, but we like to keep some of that innovation here as much as we can. But the FAA is trying to accommodate that. So on that hand, yes, we see the FAA being very nimble, and we're very glad to see those components come out. There's some things we don't see eye to eye on, and I think that's part of any healthy relationship. There's some areas that we have concerns with, and some of the things in their interpretive rule of the special rule model aircraft that we don't see eye to eye on. So we're going to continue to work through those issues. But no matter the outcome, we're participating in the airspace, and that involves cooperation and coordination with the FAA.
For those looking for more information on the hobby drone side, how can they reach out to AMA? What programs does AMA have in return that reaches out to them?
So in terms of the AMA, there are quite a few member benefits. For one, we talked about just being part of a community, of a safe community that is looking at integrating new technology. We integrated new technology, as I mentioned, for years. So as these new platforms are coming out, we're often the first ones to put it down on paper. Here's a safe way to implement it. And those ideas are often adopted at the state and local and federal level. So being part of that ground floor is important. The camaraderie, the accountability that comes with AMA, joining a club, there's some great benefits with that. The insurance is another great benefit. Advocacy. Often when we go to talk to other legislators, or when we're at the door of the FAA, or we're part of the Drone Advisory Committee, we are the largest group of users out there speaking for the hobbyist community.
By far.
And even some of the commercial community. There is more and more of that crossover where our members are doing commercial work. So being part of the AMA, you're part of that voice, and you can help shape that voice. We listen to when members call, email, tweet us. We do engage with each one of those, and we share some of those. We feed that up to the very top.
I've noticed in working with your leadership and many people throughout the organization that there is a strong, cohesive mission in place, but that everybody is involved. It's an unusually, I wouldn't just say hardworking, but effective organization. And we work with over 100 different organizations in the aviation and aerospace arena, and it's nice to see one that just plain works. And the funny part is, it's an organization that for me, I've been a part of since I was a kid. So glad to see it continue the way it has in the past and going forward. How can people reach out directly to get membership and other information from AMA?
Go to our website, modelaircraft.org. It's a great starting point. If you go to knowbeforeyoufly.org, we mentioned AUVSI being a great leader in this industry. We've partnered with AUVSI on a few efforts, including Know Before You Fly. And if you go to that website, you'll see a map. And that map will showcase where where our AMA clubs are located. You can punch in your zip code, you can find a club. So not only going to our website, but go to an AMA flying site, talk to some of the members, and they can really, there's a great resource there.
The clubs are amazing. When I was a kid growing up, we literally had one of our local FAA guys in the club, Dick Klaus, and a number of other people from my age all the way up to the old gray-haired crowd, and it was such an interesting dynamic. And the funny part is I'm still friends with so many of those people today. It's really quite remarkable. It's an interesting microcosm of aviation society, for lack of a better way to put it.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, we're going to be coming up here on a short break. I want to thank Chad for joining us, and also let's keep in mind that AMA is our partner on the AMA Drone Report. You can access that at www.amadronereport.com, if I can say it. We look forward to seeing you back here in just a few moments. We are at XPONENTIAL 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. And we will see you in just a few moments. Alrighty, short break, we're back. There is this interesting dilemma right now in where you can operate a UAV or the UAS configurations that were showing up now in all manner of working environments. But there's this big question about what happens if one of these machines comes afoul over people, over important territory. What do we do about that? So let's talk about some possible solutions. Alan Erickson from Indemnis, tell us what you're doing here.
Well, we've been working for the last 2.5 years to create a fail-safe for drones, basically a recovery system like a parachute that actually works. My background came from the TV film industry, brought drones into the fold with Discovery Channel and Animal Planet, and at a network like that, they care about safety. And we bought basically every parachute system on the market for like Free Fly, Cine Stars, and things like that to test them and see if we could use them as a risk mitigator. And what we found is, in a real failure scenario, they all entangled. They didn't work. And the more we looked into it, looking at these different companies, they all demoed their products by just hovering the aircraft, throttling down the motors, leveling it out, and deploying. And that's not a real world scenario. And so I left the network and got some pretty heavy private equity funding and built a very large engineering team, and we started tackling the problem. And first we developed what we call the SLS, which was a fully inflatable parachute system made of a ballistic material that's ultra lightweight. And then we pared that down for the average user to what we call the Nexus, which is a ballistic tube that sheathes the parachute and lines inside this tube. It inflates in 30 milliseconds, deploys the chute out at 90 miles an hour, and during that inflation process over 30 milliseconds, it fully sheathes the parachute and lines from all the control surfaces of the aircraft so that if it's rolling and tumbling and you're at speed, it's not going to entangle. And we've spent just thousands of hours engineering, flight testing, simulating different failure scenarios in the real world. We'll take an aircraft, go full speed, kill 1, 2, 3, 4, all motors, get it to roll and tumble as violently as possible. We've seen rolls as violent as 180 to RPMs that were just natural rolls from a failure, or like we had motor cutting in and out and the avionics overcompensated. And we've induced failures up to 300 RPMs, and we're at the point now where we haven't had a failure. We can recover the aircraft every time with no entanglement. And that's a really big thing for flight over people, because Phantom, people argue, is it safe, is it not safe if it hits you on the head? But you move up to something like a 20-pound, 30-pound, or 55-pound drone and it falls out of the sky,
gonna do some damage.
It's gonna potentially kill you, if not send you to the hospital. And being able to reliably have a fail-safe on it that works is a huge thing. We like to use the analogy that all the existing parachute systems on the market were like saying the brakes on your car only work if you're going 5 miles an hour and the roads are dry and the sun is shining. We want to work no matter what happens, and have done all the engineering and testing to do that because we were drone operators. The aircraft can go any direction and it could fail at any direction, going forward, backwards, left or right. And it needs to be able to work. And so that's what we've been working on, is the Indemnis Nexus, and now it's available for sale so that people can have a working fail-safe.
What kind of platforms are you able to adapt the system to right now?
So it's fully scalable, basically from anything about 8 pounds and up right now. And by up, I mean the full-size aircraft for DoD. But we're offering it for the Inspire 1, Inspire 2, M200, M210, and then the Free Fly Alta 8 and Alta 6 platforms. We'll probably be adding the M600 from DJI really soon. But to give you an idea how confident we are of our system has its own black box, very smart software. It's a very well-built system. We're very confident in it. Confident enough that when a customer buys it and puts it on their aircraft, the software will, tell you, all right, you're good to fly, the system's armed. If you have a failure and the system doesn't recover your aircraft, it doesn't deploy and your aircraft just hits the ground, we'll buy you a new aircraft.
That's pretty confident.
We're 100% confident in it. We've deployed in 60-mile-an-hour winds, rain, snow. We've flown our aircraft in every direction. Take an I-2 on our website and our Facebook page. You can see an Inspire 2. We're killing it, causing a failure in sport mode at 58 miles an hour. Recover it with a downward fire.
Give me a rough idea of what the system and weight penalties may be for an installation like this, costs, and most important down the line, how do you maintain a system like this?
Okay, so the weight for the Inspire 2, which is the one I'll use because that's one we're publishing footage of right now, is 14 ounces. Installation time is 15 minutes tops. You have to remove 4 screws on the nose cone, insert a kind of interceptor board. That's a one-time install. Then the system just clicks on and off the arm like a GoPro very quickly. We have done tons of flying. The aircraft handles the weight just fine. We see about 2 minutes in flight time reduction with a X5R gimbal on it. So for professional users, minimal impact, very reliable. If the system deploys, this is really important. It's not user serviceable, all right? Your background sounds a little different, but the average person doesn't know how to pack a parachute reliably. And I'm gonna say that, I asked the question to everyone, would you jump out of a plane with a chute you packed yourself? So you do have to send the system back to us, depending on how your aircraft came down. You know, if it got blown into the trees and the chute gets damaged, things like that. The rearming fee ranges between $150 to $300 with, on average, a 3-day turnaround time.
Okay.
And for, you know, large fleet users, we do offer training so that they can rearm the system themselves.
And acquisition cost?
Acquisition cost is $1,700, though during XPONENTIAL and the launch of the product, we're offering a discount of $700 off any system we sell. So right now it's $1,000. And a big thing, coming from the cinema background, we're going with a kind of favored customer pricing regimen, kind of like Red Digital Cinema, where if you buy a system right now, the next system that comes out, if you want to upgrade to it for your i3 or an M600, you'll get at least 50% off on the next system.
Okay.
As an early adopter.
Talk about deployment methodologies. How is the system deployed, and what control does the operator have over the various deployment methodologies?
So for the i2, right now is no way for the user to manually deploy it. And we could add a functionality in, but our software is really smart. And what I mean by that is we've built a flight reference table on the i2, for example, over, you know, about 80 hours of flight time in that instance, plus information, you know, gathered from DJI. And the software compares the last 30 seconds of flight data in real time every 200 milliseconds to what's currently happening.
Okay.
We can detect the difference between flight or fall in 6 feet of movement. We do not have to even remotely hit terminal velocity. So basically, unless the aircraft is right in front of you, we're going to know that we need to deploy before you ever even know what's going on.
Okay.
And that's recorded in a black box. All that information is offloaded. When the system gets to us, we're able to, you know, work with the customer, and the customer is able to look at their aircraft and see what went wrong.
Well, I would assume LOS exceeding certain pitch and roll parameters, vertical parameters, and so forth are all basic elements of the decision-making process that the software that you've developed will utilize to determine when and where to deploy.
We've actually just been testing out the latest software feature where if the aircraft's rolling, it can calculate when to deploy during the roll so that ideally it fires straight upward to give you some more altitude.
Okay. Is there an awareness of the attitude at point of deployment?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, because under certain circumstances, obviously firing inverted can be really problematic.
It can. In some circumstances, depending on the flight dynamic of the aircraft, it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
For the I2, we fire out the nose cone
okay.
so that your camera the aircraft lands on its back, protecting the camera.
Mm-hmm.
But in most situations, it's going to roll or tumble. And one of the things to understand that's really different about this system is it actually throws the parachute to full extension. And if you look, we'll be posting some videos, ground deployments of other systems and our system. Most systems throw a parachute maybe 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
We can throw a parachute 60 feet. We don't run a 60-foot line, but
what's the methodology behind the deployment?
So the methodology is we use this ballistic tube from a proprietary material, and we weld it. And it's a sealed tube connected to a base.
Mm-hmm.
There's a solid state valve that releases about 1,800 psi of air in a little 1.9 ounce carbon fiber air tank.
Gotcha.
Into it instantly. That parachute is inverted into that tube, packed into the whole system. It deploys out, really quickly, 30 milliseconds, rigid state, and during that deployment process, it throws the parachute to full extension away from the aircraft every time, and that's how we've avoided entanglement, because that tube is of such a length when it's inflated that the lines in the parachute start past all the props and control surfaces of the aircraft.
Well, deployment systems are an art form unto itself. I had mentioned when we were talking before the show started, I spent quite a bit of time with the BRS folks in developing the manned ballistic recovery systems that were employed on the Cessnas and the Cirrus and a number of other aircraft since, and actually had the opportunity to ride the chute on a number of occasions. And in one other case, which was kind of interesting, in an aerobatic ultralight with a control failure, he got to fire one out in anger. It's watching the development of the technology, what's happened to parachutes, what's happened to deployment technologies, what's happened to reefing systems over the years has been absolutely fascinating. And one of the things that I saw as this industry developed was a very specific need. So I'm not surprised that people are stepping up at this stage of the game. So this product has just become available?
Yes, it's just become available this week to the public. I mean, we've had some beta users, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't put something on the market that didn't work, you know, in every scenario. In 2.5 years of engineering to get this thing to the point where we're, like I said, confident enough to guarantee the system in your aircraft.
And where do you go from here?
Where we go from here is, one, working with the FAA, which we've been, you know, in contact with them, and the ASSURE program to help this be a risk mitigator to allow for potential flight over people for our end users. You know, always further developing the hardware. And we have some future upgrades in the pipeline that make it even nicer. I will say that there's still some problems. If you have a parachute deploy and you're in an urban environment and you slam into the side of a building, your chute might collapse. It's a problem we're working on tackling, and that's the kind of stuff that, you know, we look to take care of our customers that work with us and buy our product and make sure that they get the best favored pricing on the upgrades as they come out.
Well, and I got to tell you, you got my curiosity aroused here. We're going to definitely have to take a look at what you're doing, and more important, follow up and get some information and get behind the scenes with you down the line, hopefully for a feature or two. I appreciate your time here. How can people find out more about the technology you've developed and the products that are coming available?
Well, our website, indemnis.com, and our Facebook page, which is Facebook/Indemnis, are really great sources for updates. We got videos on there. Those are the best ways to check us out and get information about the products and the technology.
Alrighty. Well, we appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Have a great day.
It's a fascinating technology. As I said, I've been working with this stuff for decades, and boy, every time I step back into it, the more my mind just absolutely boggles.
Have you had a chance to actually see the videos?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty intriguing, but we definitely need to spend some more time looking behind the scenes, and we thank you much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, folks, we will be back with you in just a few moments. I believe we've got Eric Radke from Sporty's Pilot Shop to join us here in a few moments. And we are live from XPONENTIAL 2017 in Dallas, Texas. We'll be back in just a few moments. Okay, you lost. I'm back. Nothing you can do about it. We're here at the 2017 Exponential AUVSI's annual trade show at the Dallas Convention Center, the K. Bailey Hutchinson Center. And it's time to talk education. We're here with Eric Radke, president of Sporty's Academy. Mr. President, how are you?
Thank you, Jim. Great. Glad to be here.
Make a long story short, there is a tremendous need for people to get their act together. It's been a wild west. Too many people going, oh, I got a drone under the tree for Christmas. I'm ready to go. I can go take on the world. Doesn't quite work that way. Sporty's has been a leader in a number of educational efforts for a number of years, and I've had great conversations with Hal over the years talking about what's next and how to do it, and more important, how to bring this down to Joe and Jane Q Aviator. So tell us what Sporty's is doing in the drone arena.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hard to imagine a hotter topic in aviation other than the drone market. You can feel the excitement in the air. You can feel the excitement here on the exhibit floor at Exponential 2017.
This is no small potatoes.
No, not at all. The whole world is watching. You know, certainly it's been a long time coming to even take that first step in terms of integrating UAS systems into the national airspace. And there's a lot of work to be done. But as you point out, you know, we need to make sure that the training, the educational opportunities catch up to the accessibility of the drones. I mean, the most exciting part about all of this is what we don't see. It's what's to come. I mean, yeah, a lot of excitement here, but you know, the applications appear to be limitless. So we're going to have all kinds of new entrants into this drone arena. And we have to have the resources, we have to have the support, we have to have the training available to them. So at Sporty's, we're definitely watching the industry very carefully. We're already providing a variety of training resources, most of which can be done in the convenience in an online or an app format.
On the iPad?
On the iPad, absolutely. Even Android devices, we have some you know, training course options there as well. But we have everything from full UAS ground school courses all the way down to very niche specific Part 107 remote pilot test prep courseware as well. And what I expect to see and what you can maybe look forward to from Sporty's as well is the opportunity to do some hands-on training in addition to just the distance learning opportunities.
That seems to be a much demanded area. There are people coming out. It's one thing to run around with my little Phantom 3 and trash it every couple of days, fix it up and go fly again. But I'm looking to do something, for lack of a better way to put it, more professional. And it takes guidance. The old trial and error situation winds up with a lot of errors.
Yes, indeed. There's very important public policy issues at stake here. So again, I can't underscore the importance of enough of everyone being good ambassadors for aviation and good citizens of aviation. There's a lot of platforms out there. I mean, certainly from a Sporty's perspective, we are going to take a very deliberate, measured approach. Make sure we do it the right way, the way Sporty's has always been, you know, conducting business really in its 55-year history. But I would agree with you. I think that is definitely what the educational community in particular in aviation is going to have to.
It'd be interesting to see how you attack that as well, because I've been following over the years how you've handled just plain old basic private pilot or sport pilot flight training, and you've had an unusually successful program in terms not just about how cost effective you've made the program under the circumstances, but how well the folks going through the program have ultimately done.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Sporty's is a trustworthy name in aviation, so you know, our flight school, our flight training division certainly benefits from that. But you know, it's the fundamentals. We stick with the fundamentals. We have a system that we know works. We have evidence that it works. And we get our training staff working from the same playbook and make sure everyone has the correct expectations. So there's certainly a lot of those education fundamentals that we think are applicable, of course, to this UAS market as well.
Well, Eric, I'm Joe Q Aviator. I'm fascinated by the fact that the RC aircraft that I used to play with have now generated the drone industry, and hey, maybe there's even a job in it down the line. But there's rules and regs now. So I log on to sportys.com. where do I go to find good, solid, basic programming right now that'll help me get through all the legalities and, more important, make me a safer drone pilot?
Sure. Sporties.com/drones is kind of your one-stop Sporties landing page for everything drone related. Everything from equipment to accessories, supplies, and of course training material, which is going to be front and center. So, I mean, there's ways to customize the training options you have from Sporties. Again, everything from the comprehensive full UAS ground school programs for someone coming in very fresh and new to this market, to this sector, down to those who maybe have some experience, maybe have had some extensive RC experience in the past before we had the structure that we do now, that are just looking maybe for some assistance, or again, those 1, 2, 3s and those basic fundamentals of what it takes to operate under Part 107, and we have very niche specific programs there as well. Like all of our programs, you can test drive everything. So it's not like you're making uninformed decisions. You can take everything for a full test drive online before you make the purchase and explore and read and look at reviews and really kind of funnel down into exactly what it is that will accomplish your individual goal.
Well, the thing I've liked about your programs is their outright portability. I mean, I can update something, look at it on an iPhone or an iPad. I can look at it my home PC, and the overall coursework has been very good. As somebody who's been, God, I hate to say how old my flight instructor rating is. It's got cobwebs on it. But I've watched this industry try and try again a number of ways just to reach out to people, and the more convenient, the more portable, and then of course the more expertly done, the better off we all are.
Sure. We take the approach that it needs to be fun, it needs to be engaging, it needs to be built for the modern consumer that's accustomed to getting information in kind of a manageable segments where and when they wish to consume information. So that's certainly of top of mind with all of our educational development. It's certainly worth noting, before we had the structure of Part 107 that we do now, and the really primary vehicle for an individual to receive legal formal approval was through that Part 333 exemption process. We worked with a number of pilots who were had goals of sport pilot, recreational pilot, kind of the quickest, most economical, efficient pathway to pilot certification, which at one time, of course, was a requirement for those Part 333s. But what I want to point out is that once an individual came and got to experience that magic of flight, which we get to do on a regular basis, and not all the drone pilots out there have been able to do, really something magical about that experience. So I don't want to ignore the fact that there's some powered, pilot opportunities out there to this drone market too, and certainly I think from a holistic educational and experience perspective, some real value in maybe seeing what it's about, what powered flight is about, understanding the communications and airport operations and all of those things, and that's something that Sporties is uniquely positioned to be able to deliver as well.
With the expertise that you have from the sport, general, and commercial aviation worlds, in walking a show like this, what is your impression about the abilities industry right now to cope with the progress it's making and deal with the issues it faces to be able to somehow synergize a far better industry out of it overall?
There's a lot of work to be done. Again, the technological advancements, equipment, accessibility, affordability is all advancing very rapidly. So, I think, everyone's going to have to, take a big deep breath, step back, and really, again, focus on the right, safe, measured approach to this full integration and synergy, as you talk about. I don't think we're there yet. I love the excitement. I love the excitement for sure. But it definitely needs to advance in a cohesive, format, because again, the world is watching.
Boy, ain't that the truth. The conversations we had a couple of weeks ago with Michael Huerta, with Earl Lawrence yesterday, with Brian Wynne, the president of AUVSI, the one thing that's become kind of a common theme, in particular, it was an interesting conversation with Michael Huerta, where you realize you're doing more here than controlling aircraft or controlling transportation system. You're literally changing society. And he was very thoughtful about that. Everybody else has been. And that, to me, is a very hopeful point, that they realize that this goes far beyond flying from A to Z or taking a payload or moving from one thing to another. It is a game changer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's, I mean, let us not forget too about, as part of this integration, it's a very difficult job. I don't envy the task. There are these community expectations, and there's these community standards that we all have to be aware of. Right now it's a bit of a moving target. So some very important policy decisions that are still left to be ironed out for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to move along here and start talking drone racing in a few moments. Eric, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us here on Aero
Jim,
TV.
Glad to be here.
This is Aero-News Network, Airborne-Unmanned. We are part of AUVSI's media effort here at Exponential 2017. We're happy to have them as partners, happy to have Sporties as a partner for this event. If you're interested in more from Sporties, once again, sporties.com/drones. All right, we will be back in just a few moments to talk drone racing. Get your racing spurs on. We're ready to go. We'll be talking to multi-GP and Chris Thomas, I believe. So we'll be back in just a few moments. Alrighty, once again, you've lost the toss. I'm back. There's nothing you do about it, at least for another 15 minutes or so. Then Tom Patton will take over for much of the rest of the programming today. Yes, this is a commercial environment. Yes, it's a commercial show, but let's face it, there's a lot of things that are building within the drone industry and the drone recreational side, and a lot of crossover. So let's talk drone racing with a name at this point that has become literally synonymous with the concept, multi-GP. Chris Thomas.
Sure.
Are you ready to race?
Absolutely. Drones have a lot of applications. The key to drones is they become unmanned. You remove the human from the pilot seat. Well, most of the jobs that they're talking about here, frankly, are boring. You go up, you go down, you look at stuff. We found a lot more fun way to apply unmanned technology. Drone racing is a very fast-growing sport. By putting yourself in the pilot seat of a drone, you get all the fun of flying a jet fighter with none of the risk of crashing a jet fighter.
For those of us flown jet fighters, yay. Especially for those of us who have looked at the little handle a couple of times and wondered if it was time to pull. We saw you at work at Sebring.
Right.
Spent some time in the pit, spent some time all over that area. And the thing to me that was interesting from my first opportunity to really get in the middle of it and spend a considerable period of time with it was, holy smokes, this is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I come from all aspects of aviation: helicopter, jets, airplanes, gliders, aerobatics, the whole 9 yards. Something about 19,000 hours now, and I'm not an easy guy to impress. This was cool stuff.
Well,
I mean, I wanted to get out there and just go out and go nuts.
Yeah.
And it was obvious from everybody who walked through there that there was a strong urge to participate,
right.
which to me seems to indicate you got something going here. Tell me how a race is conducted, and more important, what's the future of the concept right now?
Well, I get asked that question, you know, what's the future? But as far as the race is concerned, we are using some state-of-the-art technology and some antiquated technology. The old technology we like to use is analog video transmission. We do it because it's extremely low latency, and it's extremely light. It works, and it's inexpensive. The drones that we build are typically 400 to 500 grams. They're very lightweight. They're designed to be super fast, very agile, but also be able to withstand a crash. So if we put high-dollar video transmission technology and we break it every crash, suddenly we've made it a very expensive sport.
No point.
So a typical race will consist of anywhere from 5 to 8 drones. We put them out on the starting line. We verify that every pilot has got a good radio link, a good video link. Once it's been verified, the race starts. It typically lasts for about 2 minutes. The courses are designed to test the speed, the agility, the skill of the pilot to make sure that they are, you know, the best of the best. We want to use this as a way to find out who is the best pilot. While you're in the pilot seat, when you're racing, you forget everything. You start off nervous, holding onto a remote control with a weird pair of goggles on your face. And the next thing you know, you're a machine. And you spend 2 minutes as this machine racing around a course. Every bit of your available processing power in your brain is operating this aircraft. It's awesome.
The thing that was interesting to me was you had 2 visual modes for spectators.
Right.
You had the screen where you saw what each of the FPV goggles was showing its pilot.
Right.
And in this case, let's make one thing very clear. The guys and girls flying this are pilots.
Right.
Nope. This is high speed, fine-tuned, highly coordinated, and you've got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you get that inevitable little thunk that we heard quite a few times at Sebring.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. And then there was just standing, and in some cases standing in the pit area, which of course was shielded by netting and so forth and kept everybody safe. But you're in the middle as these machines are whizzing around at seemingly high rates of speed, or at least relative to the people standing in the middle. And it's incredibly entertaining.
Right.
And I would imagine this scales really well.
Well, it does. As it scales in size, of course, it scales in cost. One of the things we love about the sport right now is it's very accessible. It's something that anyone can participate in.
And you're doing races all over the place.
Yeah, there was 456 races last month. So it's
What do you do in your spare time?
We do racing.
There we go.
This is what we do. This is way beyond a job. This is more of just a mission in life. We are spreading this new sport. We're helping to grow a new sport. We're inspiring a whole new generation of aviators. These are people who never knew that they liked flying. Maybe they've looked at an airplane and said, that's neat, and they go back to playing their video games. But we're building this whole new generation of pilots.
Now, the other part that's kind of interesting for the crass commercial side of all of this is you can make some money off of this. And it's got tremendous potential to make a whole lot more.
You know, we look forward to the day when pilots are celebrities, they're well paid, they're well taken care of. There are a few pilots who've already made that jump, who've gone from this being their hobby to this being their full-time career. And we've seen some pretty amazing prize purses. Dubai put on a race with $1 million prize purse for drone racing, which
I am in the wrong business.
Well, there's a lot of pilots and there's only one prize purse. So it doesn't go that far when it comes down to the pilots. We believe there is a great future here. This is a potential branding platform for these companies that are here at this show to prove that they're the best of the best. The disconnect that I see right now in the UAV industry and in the early days of aviation is, in the early days of aviation, to be a test pilot, you had to be able to fly things that other people couldn't fly so you would survive. The herd was thin based on pilot skill. Right now in the UAV industry, there are many pilots out here that there's not been a test of their skill. Not to say that they're bad pilots, but what test has been performed? They've not been in that scenario. If they're flying automated systems that go up because the computer tells it to go up, they may not be the best suited for flying these aircraft. So we've built a system, I think, that finds the best pilots in the world. They're fully manual. There are no computer controls in these aircraft. It is a human operating an aircraft, and that's it.
Pretty exciting stuff. At Sebring, if I'm trying to recall, what were the purses at Sebring?
So at that prize, there was $15,000
Right,
total that was
there we
paid
go.
out to the pilots. And what was amazing for us is the FAA, the local rep from the FSDO, was right there beside us. There was an operating air show next to us, and everything was safe, everything was controlled, everything met and exceeded the expectations that the FAA inspectors had for being there. So for us, that was a monumental point in this brand new
Well, what was
sport.
interesting is you not only fit in, it wasn't a situation where they had to throw you out in the lower 40 and the only way to get out there was to take a tram or whatever the case may be. You were in the middle center complex,
right,
just tucked off to one side, and we could walk from where we were launching and recovering and all the LSAs and doing the demo flights and the flybys and everything else and be in the middle of drone territory in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it fit really well.
Right.
It was fun to walk from one to the other, and aviation, general aviation, sport aviation, tends to be filled with folks who are fairly conservative.
Right.
But I listen to a lot of folks come back from there going, that was cool. And I can get one of those for a couple $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, where's a hobby shop? We were telling people where Graves was in Orlando
Right.
and a few other places, and
Right,
kind of go,
right.
yeah, we got to go see this stuff.
Sure.
It has the potential to be, one, exciting and fun and recreational from a number of standpoints. Two, there's the competitive aspect where people could actually make a few bucks and so forth and so on. But the part that is exciting to me is what it can do to bridge the gap again between, you know, big, dark, scary aviation and the general public who thinks drones are out to ram grandma's airliner so she can't come home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's just such a great crossover. It's exciting, it's new, it's just a phenomenal bridge.
Right. You know, we just partnered with Purdue to run the first college championship.
We covered that on Airborne on the Ambient Drone Report the other day.
Yeah. And what was really exciting about that, Purdue has a great model for their students. A lot of the equipment that you don't fly, the ground stations, the controllers, the goggles, they rent this to their students, or they check it out like a library, which is helping these new aviators to get involved. But seeing that competitiveness between the colleges is something that excites us. It helps to drive this to being a sport.
Chris, if somebody is interested in getting involved in this, what is the step up? How does somebody who got himself a Phantom 3 under the tree last year now figure out how to do something far more exciting than chase the neighbor's cat?
Sure. Well, if you visit our website, multigp.com, you can find a chapter in your area. These are a group of UAV enthusiasts. Some of them race, some of them do photography, but all of them are like-minded, and they really can help anyone who's interested in getting further into the sport, you know, with advice on equipment or how to configure it or run it, or even just learning how to fly. So there's chapters, there's over 1,000 chapters now around the world of MultiGP.
Holy smokes. Do you have any idea about how large the community overall pilot is?
We've talked about this a lot. We have over 17,000 registered pilots, which we would imagine makes up about a third of the overall world's community.
That's
so
not
nearly
small.
60,000 drone racers, and growing very fast.
And again, and I realize it puts you on the spot, but then again, that's my job and you're in the hot seat. Where do you go from here?
You know, what we're looking for is a lot of races, high frequency of races. The days of making these pilgrims from where you live to a place far away for a one-time event has changed. We live in more of that instant gratification world. So we have these series that go on right now. Our championship this year is 100 races that lead up to a final. which we're going to be holding the finals at a pillar in the aviation community for racing. We'll be announcing that in the next couple of days. But building that...
See, a pillar in aviation for racing. Yeah, that's a 1-4 letter. Yeah, got it.
You got it.
Been there many a year.
Well, we're excited about that. The amazing part about it, though, is you're finding talent that has never been discovered. You know, we'll have a 12-year-old make it to the finals to race against the Sean Taylor, who is, you know, in his 30s, right? But we're not so concerned. This levels the playing field. So just seeing the frequency of racing grow throughout the world brings an awareness and makes it hopefully a household sport.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm excited for what you're doing. It's something we've covered quite a bit, not just because it's news, but because it's good for the industry. Anything that popularizes, provides a good structure, builds a community, and most important, provides a very favorable, positive viewpoint to the rest of the world. So once again, the drone becomes something that is cool rather than suspicious.
Yeah.
That's something that's got to be good for us all, and I thank you for the work.
Well, thanks.
All righty, Guy. Much appreciated. And we're looking forward to coming out to more races down the line. Matter of fact, it was funny the other day, I was talking to a friend of ours, Casey Sealock, who's an FPV racer, and he's going to be doing a lot of our drone reviews for the AMA Drone Report and for Airborne-Unmanned down the line. So it's going to be interesting to see, both from his standpoint as well as others, what we're going to be able to do. Alrighty, folks, we are starting a commercial break here. We'll be back in just a few minutes. We are live from XPONENTIAL 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. Be right back.
Aero-News Network's coverage of AUVSI's XPONENTIAL 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonic's Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.
And welcome back, live at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. It's AUVSI XPONENTIAL 2017. I'm Tom Patton, and I'm joined by Jerry Hendricks. Jerry's with Lone Star UAS Center of Excellence. And Jerry, thank you very much for joining us. When I first saw your name on the list, I looked quick and it said Jimi Hendrix. And
that was my dad's name. So people kidding me about that all growing up through life. So yeah, it's an honor for us to be here this morning. Thanks for having us online with you guys. So As you know, we're one of the Federal Aviation Administration's FAA UAS test sites. And we have a really unique thing that's happened to us recently. We received an experimental airworthiness certificate, special airworthiness certificate from the FAA on one of our aircraft. And it can be done. For all of you guys who are out there that it's working. You have to work with the FAA, closely with the FAA. And you have to do those things, those types of tests that they need to have the results that they need to be able to make their decisions. It's also important to understand and work with the aircraft manufacturer that is actually has the details of the aircraft, including all the wiring diagrams, all the detailed drawings, the operational concepts for the actual aircraft. This particular special airworthiness certificate in the experimental case gives us the ability to focus on package delivery. We have a special client, a major client, this global client, investigating package delivery. So this particular aircraft was designed in accordance with regulations that allows it to do package delivery. And so we're excited that we just received that certification. We have a little bit of a safety assessment that we're doing in a couple of weeks to actually get the document and the piece of paper for the certification. So we're excited about that.
Now, I know that the client is confidential, but is it a fixed wing? Is it a quad, a multi-rotor?
It's a rotorcraft. It's a rotorcraft, targeted short distance from a location to another location. Could be a controlled or uncontrolled location. It's very important in these cases to develop your concept of operations and to make sure that the FAA is in full agreement with your concept of operations. And then you have to go through a series of rigorous tests. And the FAA provided to us those testing steps within our agreement with them when they established the test sites. And so those are what they call maturity process. And you go through the unproven, the experimental, up to the proven and mature steps. And there's hundreds of hours of operations. So if you want to do a special airworthiness certificate, you can do that. It's going to take the rigor and the time to go through the testing process. And it's best to test it in the concept of operations of which the aircraft would be deployed or used. So,
how are you finding, or how did you find the FAA to work with in this new realm? Because they're still learning about drones too.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we have a great relationship with the UAS Integration Office and also the other offices that are responsible for the certification process. We've always been one that says the FAA leads, we follow, and we work with them and provide them what they need. We have a great rapport and relationship with them. We work through some retired executives of the FAA that's given us some of the insights and advantages of who we need to talk to in the FAA. So, but we're excited. We have a great relationship with the FAA. So,
when you look at the overall UAV testing that's going on, and I know you're one of the approved test sites. What kinds of innovations are you seeing based on the testing that's being done at your site and others?
Yeah, so we've completed over 1,800 flights, test flights. We're seeing a lot of hybrids now coming on board, what we call hybrids or multi-variant vehicles, vertical takeoff, transition to fixed wing, in different categories, some with rotary capability, electrical base, some also with actual turbine-based systems, right? All of those have specific targeted business cases. We also see manufacturers who are actually targeting business cases and designing the aircraft for certain business cases, such as precision agriculture and things of that nature. So we have well over 200 clients focused in things like precision agriculture, inspection, and then delivery, of course. Autonomy research, autonomous systems is certainly something that's going to come online in a sense and avoid type solutions.
There are a lot of those hybrid aircraft here at AUVSI.
They are,
I've seen a lot of them on the floor. They're
tail sitters, different ways of taking off. Yeah, it's magnificent.
So are you also testing everything from small, like consumer size quadcopters up to the global Hawk size aircraft?
So we are testing up to larger aircraft. We haven't got to the global Hawk size yet, okay? Because they require special permission at different altitudes. But we put businesses with manufacturers for a specialized business case. We have some manufacturers who are designing new aircraft and come through us to start from the very beginning and saying, I was just talking to one a few minutes ago and said, well, our aircraft, we want you to start testing our aircraft. We want you to help define the flight envelope. They don't know the flight envelope yet, so design the aircraft. So we're in the developmental, type testing and also the operational and fielding type testing.
So what is that process if someone has a new aircraft and they want to get into testing? They approach you. What do they need to bring?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. We of course put a non-disclosure together. We actually work with them and protect their proprietary information. work through a contracting mechanism, and then we need information about the aircraft, right? We need those wiring diagrams, we need those information. It allows us to put together a airworthiness assessment for a public aircraft operation so that we can begin doing that testing and collecting all the hours and then start reporting that to the FAA. So.
You've gotten the special airworthiness certificate for one. Do you have others that are in that process?
We do, yes. We have other aircraft that are in that process now, getting maturity hours on them. So.
And can you talk about any of those any further than that, or is that all covered by NDAs?
Yeah, so the particular business cases are all covered by NDAs and protected with the customer and client bases and things of that nature. But we do have those aircraft in that process. So.
Since you're in this part of the business, look down the road for me a year to maybe 5 years and tell me where you think this unmanned industry is going to be.
So I think we're going to see a tremendous global impact. I think we're going to see the larger manufacturers like the Boeings and Lockheeds are going to continue to advance a larger type aircraft, internal autonomous, of course. And I think you'll see the question will be posed, will you be the first one to fly on a fully autonomous commercial carrier? I'll sign up. Are you going to go with me?
I very well might.
Yeah. So I think we'll see that. And then I'm excited about the variance it's going to give us the tools between the robotics, surface, subsurface capability in the air system that's going to allow us to solve problems like port security, inspections, things of that nature, and even the drone is going to come take care of our yard, right? The drone's going to come in and trim our hedges and also take care of
those rotors on the bottom.
Put them on the ground, take care of them. I'm looking forward to that. So.
Maybe they'll do the hedges as well and have hardened ones. Jerry, thank you very much for joining us. I know you've got to run to another appointment. We really appreciate your taking time to come and join us and talk about some of the exciting developments in the testing realm. And good luck to you, and hope you have a successful show.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back at AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center here in Dallas, Texas. It's high noon. We'll be right back. and welcome back to AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. I'm Tom Patton. You're watching Aero TV. Thanks very much for joining us. My next guest is Yael Nav from Aerobotics. And Yael, thanks very much for taking some time to join us here at the convention. You've got some interesting things going on at Aerobotics, and I'm just going to let you explain to the folks kind of what's going on.
Sure, thank you. So we've got a fully automated drone and a air-based system. We're able to take off, land, execute missions, all completely automated. So absolutely no pilots necessary, no need to know how to fly a drone. We also have the first of its kind regulatory certification to fly completely unmanned. So taking the man out of unmanned, as if kind of say, and we have a very robust, capable system. We're very versatile. We can change our own batteries, we can change our own sensors. So very much a multi-tool. We're able to serve many industries, anywhere from HLS, oil and gas, mining, renewables, power generation. We're able to do security, able to do inspection. We're able to be a first respondent to any kind of emergency situations happening on site. So you have a fire or a leak and you got to have live video. We're able to get within a 30 square mile area, anywhere to about 3 to 4 minutes, completely automated. So that's what we do. So you're talking about an aircraft, and I think I recall that it's one that comes, it finds its docking station, and so it'll fly its mission, come back, dock, completely recharge, and be ready to go for the next time. Is that basically kind of the scenario that you're working under? 100%, yeah. So we try to find locations or clients that have kind of a hub of activity, so facilities that are big and busy, lots of things are moving and going around. You need to keep a close eye, but you also have routine. So mines, refineries, those kind of facilities where you have a job to do all the time. So our drone has a bunch of, say, pre-planned missions that are either go and fetch aerial data or go fetch gas data or any kind of information that you got to get on a routine basis. So all the missions are pre-programmed and it's got a schedule, it knows what to do, flies out, does the job, comes back, automated. As a client, don't have to worry about anything except just getting the information, making good decisions. Is it able to respond to conditions where, if for instance, you mentioned something about a gas leak and you needed to launch and deploy your drone to go out and get a visualization of what's going on that's not an ordinary situation? How is that scenario handled? Sure, yeah, so totally capable of integrating into existing systems. So. You've got your facility, there's already a bunch of sensors lying around, anywhere from gas sensors, fire sensors, smart fences around the perimeter. And for us, really huge opportunities to integrate to these existing systems to be able to react and respond automated as well. So you got your fire alarm going, automatic. It just goes. And then sends pictures back to someone at a control center. Yeah, live video. What was the process like to get this system certified? We've been working with the Israeli Civil Aviation Authority for, we go back with them over 6 years already, but specifically this system, 2 years in the making. And we've had their assistance along the way in helping us design the system so it has the right safety features. So it's not only just as safe as a manned operation, it's actually even safer. You don't have human error involved at all. You have machine error, but that's something we prefer to deal with. How does it deal with, and I'm sure you've got some kind of a sense and avoid technology that prevents it from running into walls. So how do you let the aircraft operate autonomously in a closed environment like that? Right. We're not so much concerned about flying into walls because our missions are pre-planned, so we don't have any surprise routes. We don't plan any missions to run into walls, and you're not likely to run into any. We are concerned about other light aircraft, and so we're working to integrate a ground-based radar to let us know of other aircraft that are coming in, almost creating like a bubble, protected bubble that we can operate in. And another aircraft comes in, we can notify, automatically call back our aircraft.
So it's not just for interior environments, it's definitely something that you can go out and fly a pipeline inspection or a power line inspection.
Exactly, yeah. So it's mostly for outdoor use and perfect for running, inspecting for gas leaks along a petrochemical facility. And so instead of having 200 sensors thrown about the facility, you have one sensor, but it can fly everywhere.
When you look at getting into the U.S. market with an aircraft like this, and I'm sure that's someplace that you want to be, what are some of the hurdles that you're looking at, or some of the challenges that you're looking at to be able to have an autonomous system like this integrated into the U.S. national airspace?
Well, there's still work to do here with the FAA, and we have just started. We have an FAA 107 just to get the process rolling, and we think that just like we've done it in other countries, it'll start by having an observer for a while, then applying for a beyond visual on a site, and then taking the next steps in order to really get automation allowed and accepted, but with the understanding that it's restricted airspace, it's within an actual boundary, private property usually.
Do you work with any kind of geofencing to be able to keep away from places that you're not supposed to be?
Yeah, 100%. So when we show up at a facility, we run a full risk assessment, and we program the drone. It's geofenced not just to the exterior, but also, of course, height restriction. And then within the facility itself, there are sometimes no-fly zones. So we're talking about areas where people may be, walking a lot, outside of the cafeteria or right over the parking lot. There's usually no need to be flying right there. And so we create a map of a facility of allowable flight areas, so zones, corridors that we can fly along into, and that's how we, from a mission perspective, avoid, or say, decrease the risk of falling over or anybody.
I know that there are challenges to integration into the U.S. national airspace. How are you being accepted in Europe, and are you seeing more opportunities there because they have a little bit less stringent regulatory environment?
I think the opportunities are the same. I think it may be, some of the opportunities there are more reachable faster. But for us, we're currently active in Israel and in Australia. The U.S. is an important market for us, so we're sure going to explore the opportunities here soon enough.
What is the difference between operating in Israel and in Australia? Because it's a tiny little country as opposed to an enormous one.
Right. Well, yeah, the airspace is a little bit busier in Israel. But for us, it's the same. It's the same story. We always want to make sure that wherever we're operating, we're doing a maximum safety. And so the fact that it's easier to operate on Australia doesn't actually change the way we do business. So.
And is that a good proving ground for you in Australia?
Definitely. Yeah, we're seeing that it's just in terms of the kinds of sites we can work in, we can work out. There's a lot more variety, and the size, of course, is a difference maker. But Israel was the best testing ground because it doesn't get any more stringent in terms of regulation than it is there. So we feel that if we could work there, we can work anywhere.
Well, good. Well, Yahelnov, thanks very much for stopping by and chatting with us a little bit about your company. It sounds like you've got some interesting things going on, and congratulations on your certification in Israel, and we hope you have a successful show.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk with Steve Gitlin from Aerovironment. That's all just ahead here at AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. I'm Tom Patton. We'll be coming right back. And welcome back to AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. I'm Tom Patton, and before we get started, I want to send a special shout out to our friends at the booth across the way, Perkins Coy, who provided us with a few light refreshments here, some very nice cookies that they brought over to their booth. So we told them we'd thank them for that. Right now, my guest is Steve Gitlin, and Steve is with a company called Aerovironment. Steve, thank you very much for taking some time to join us on Aero TV.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity.
You've got some interesting things going on at Aerovironment, including a new small military UAV. Let's talk about that for just a minute.
There are always a lot of interesting things going on at Aerovironment, and we're lucky when we have the opportunity to tell the public about them.
Yeah.
And a couple of cool things that we've been working on, we've talked about here at the show. And the first one is our Snipe Nano Unmanned Aircraft System, or Nano Drone. So we've basically taken the technology underlying our leading small UAS. Our Raven, Puma, and Wasp are the most widely deployed drones in the US military. They account for about 85% of the whole Pentagon's fleet of drones. And bringing that down to the soldier level really requires miniaturization, efficiency, optimization. We've been able to do that with Snipe, and it's a small quad rotor that basically fits into a carrying case about this big, about the size of a submarine sandwich. And it's something that you can attach to a uniform or put in a cargo pocket, so that when troops find themselves in a sticky or risky situation in the field, they can open this up, deploy Snipe in about a minute, get it up in the air, and provide real-time video to a tablet-based controller so that they can see what's going on. And when they know what's going on around them, they can make better decisions. We call that providing more actionable intelligence so our customers can proceed with certainty.
And situational awareness as well.
That's right.
Is it an autonomous aircraft, or is it, you said there's a tablet controller?
Yes.
But it seems like they would have to be able to deploy it quickly. It would have to have some level of autonomy to be able to get airborne and go on station.
There's autonomous capability built into the system with respect to stabilization, its ability to maintain a very high quality stable image when it's in the air and buffeted by winds. But in terms of its flight path, that flight plan, that's all controlled by the operator. So the operator can do one of two things. They can either launch it and use their finger to identify the thing they want to look at, or they can pre-program waypoints, GPS waypoints, launch it, and then the Snipe will fly its own way through those waypoints and find its way home.
Almost like the rubber banding that we see in flight planning software, where you can take and tell your device how to make your flight plan, except in this case it's actually controlling the drone.
That's correct, it's controlling the drone. And of course the benefit of the device is it's got two integrated sensors. It's got an electro-optical sensor, and it's also got a thermal sensor. So, and both of those sensors can swivel up and down. So it can keep tracking objects, which is really important in those high-risk situations.
Now, you said you had another product that you're looking at as well that's a fairly new product here at the show. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so we're always innovating in terms of delivering more capability to our customers. And on our flagship platforms, Raven, Puma, and Wasp, which are all man-portable, hand-launched systems, we've continually upgraded the technology and the sensors. The latest sensor upgrade applies to our Puma AE, which is an all-environment unmanned aircraft system. And this is what we call the Mantis I-45 sensor suite. It incorporates electro-optical, low light, and full thermal sensors, along with a laser illuminator in a very small, less than 2-pound package that can provide about 7 times greater image quality as compared to the previous sensor that was used on the Puma system. So basically what this says is, if you're able to look at something using the previous I-25 sensor, you can have that same image quality and size from 7 times the distance using the new I-45 sensor. The reason that's important is because military operators like to be able to maintain a certain level of stealthiness in their operations. So the farther they are away from the target of interest, and the farther the drone is away, the less likelihood there is for the adversary to spot that device, and obviously the more secure their operation will be.
How much crossover is there between the aircraft that you develop specifically for the military and the commercial side of the UAV industry? Is there a lot of sharing of technology, and will things that you're developing for your military drones eventually wind up in the consumer drones?
It's a great question, and I'll give you a good example of how we look at it. We look at ourselves as a technology company. We invented the category of the small hand-launched drone for reconnaissance information collection back in the 1980s. And since that time, we've been refining that technology, we've been working with customers. The military has been the early adopter in the adoption curve of the technology, and we've developed a very intimate relationship with our customers. We've developed very robust, very reliable, very safe systems to use so they can count on the information they get. As the regulations have changed with respect to FAA and airspace, we've been developing a brand new solution that's specifically designed for the commercial market. We call that the Quantix drone. And that drone is a hybrid vertical takeoff and landing and horizontal flight device that is fully automatic. What that means is the operator, if you're a farmer, for example, and you want to scan your field one day, you take the 5.5 pound Quantix, set it on the ground, open up your tablet computer that we provide with it, turn it on, you draw a line around the field, a picture of the field on the satellite imagery that you want to scan. The Quantix automatically creates its own optimized flight plan and path. And after you go through a series of pre-flight checks, you simply swipe to launch. Quantix takes itself off at about 100 to 200 feet. It transitions to horizontal flight, and it goes into the mode where it's scanning the crops in both electro-optical and multispectral frequencies spectra. And that way, when it lands itself, again, no touch, you don't have to do anything once it's taking off. You can actually pull out the SD card, plug it into your tablet, and immediately view the stitched imagery on your tablet device. And our customers are very happy with that solution because many of them are too busy managing their small businesses, and in some cases large businesses, to have to learn to be drone pilots. They don't want to have to deal with all that. So we've created a fully integrated, fully automated data collection system that helps them get the actionable intelligence they need to make better decisions.
Well, Steve, I know you've got another appointment to get to, so we really appreciate you taking time to come over and talk with us. And good luck, and I hope you have a great show.
Thank you, very appreciated. Our website's avinc.com for anybody who's interested in looking at it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. And we're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with Richard Larovich from NASC. That's coming up next in our live coverage from AUVSI Exponential 2017 at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas, Texas, where it's AUVSI Exponential 2017. Aero TV's live coverage continues now. A little bit earlier today, we sat here and chatted with John Monett from Sonex Aircraft about their entry into the unmanned market. And my next guest is Richard Larovich, and he's with NASC. And Richard, I understand that you're the company that's taking the Sonex aircraft,
correct,
basically turning them into UAVs.
That is correct.
Tell us about that process.
Well, we needed an aircraft that could do a very specialized job. It had to be very strong, very maneuverable, low cost, and be able to be transitioned into a UAV. We looked at a lot of aircraft, build one of ourselves. That didn't work out the way we wanted to, and comb the market until we come upon John Minette's Sonex Aerospace, and we found an airplane that fit our bill, and we've built it. As you can see, it's on the other booth over there, and it turned into quite the aircraft. So our relationship with Sonex has been incredibly successful.
What was the challenge of taking what is essentially a manned airplane, and a kit airplane at that, and turning that into an unmanned aircraft?
Not as much as you might think.
Okay.
We removed a lot of the manned systems, and that gave us an incredible amount of space to work with. So the challenges aren't as much as you would think. I would say the biggest challenge is defining what we wanted to do once we found all that space. The conversion went extremely well, and one of the reasons for that is we used all of the command and control from our previous aircraft, that being the Tiger Shark. Okay, so it was we didn't have to invent all that much. We just had to adapt.
When you say you took out the manned systems, what did that entail?
The seat,
okay.
all the controls in the control panel, the stick, the pulleys, the cables, and all the rest of it. We needed none of that. Rudder pedals, seat belts, they all weigh, and what that adds is payload to the aircraft. So we reclaim all of that weight, and that worked out very nicely.
So you're running everything then on servos?
Yes, we are. Entirely, it's a completely autonomous aircraft. You can program it to take off, go do its mission, and come back and land all by itself.
And I guess the other question that comes to mind is, that changes the weight and balance calculation on the airplane.
Very much. As it turns out, it changed it in our favor as far as the balance is concerned, and we could leverage that change, if you will, into payload space and be able to put a lot of weight where it needed to be, where the man used to sit. In our case, it was a tremendously large fuel tank. So the airplane has a long range, and it worked out nicely that we replaced the man with fuel.
So what is the mission for a Sonex-based UAV?
This particular Sonex-based UAV, there are other models, but this particular one, and this is the Teros, it's high altitude research and development, communications platform, over the water, over the ocean, if you will, maritime patrol or anti-submarine warfare, a number of missions of that nature. A lot, though, our first is probably going to be research and development with one research university or the other.
You also mentioned the purpose-built UAV that you had, the Tiger Shark.
Yes.
Tell us about that aircraft and how it differs from the Sonex.
Well, it's a completely different airplane for completely different use. The basic Tiger Shark is a military-based, it's a RQ-23 Alpha. We have stopped manufacturing that, and we have the Tiger Shark XP, which is the exportable product, and that's what's here on the floor today. And that is much smaller aircraft. It's precisely 1/3 the size. So it's a 500-pound gross weight, whereas the Teros is 1,500 pounds. So they're completely different missions. One's a Group 3, the other's a Group 4.
And what does that mean?
Just by weight and capability. Usually it's a sizing thing, whereas the wingspan, if you will, on the Teros is 45 feet 6 inches. It's but 22 feet on the Tiger Shark.
The Teros is based on basically a motor glider.
It is a motor glider, very high lift wing. We've used that not as a motor glider, but used it for payload capacity and high altitude work.
So it has a long time to loiter.
It does. We are saying right now that the aircraft is probably a 24-hour endurance at about 24,000 feet. And that varies widely with the fuel that you have on board.
When John was here earlier, he said that you were the organization that did the flight testing on the Teros. What was that flight testing regimen like?
We have not done that yet.
Okay.
We have not done the flight testing. That aircraft over there is done, ready to fly, but we're not going to test it in the air until this fall.
Okay.
Probably mid-September.
So you're still developing the parameters.
We're still developing some of the systems in it because we have the time right now.
Right. So when you do flight test it, what are the characteristics you're going to look for?
Where we're fairly lucky is it's not a new aircraft. It's a known quantity.
Right.
So we'll be flying it against what we know that it can do and make sure that it does that. That's first, and then go back and look for fuel flow, different all the characteristics that you need to document as far as performance is concerned. We have little to no doubt that the aircraft's going to fly. That's not even in our concern, because John has produced a number of those aircraft, and they're very successful.
Something else that I noticed that's being worked on is a UAV based on the Subsonic's jet.
Yes, sir.
And is that something that you're working on as
Very
well
much
with
so.
them?
Very much so.
What's the purpose for doing it with the jet engine and going to that configuration?
Some of the research that needs to be done by some universities and other groups need a higher speed aircraft. Could we sell it to the military? I suppose we could, but nobody's asked. So this is, right now it's a research and development platform. I think it'll be very successful.
And is there, from the looks of what I saw, it's not going to be the same basic subsonics. I mean, it'll have characteristics like the Subsonic's jet, which a lot of people in the community that we deal with all the time are very familiar with, but it will be more loosely based on the Subsonic's jet.
Well, it'll be based on a two-place, whereas the Subsonics as it is now is a single place.
Right.
All right, so right away it's considerably longer and a bit heavier. However, though, it would be immediately recognizable by anybody who knows any of the Sonics products.
Where do you see the UAV industry in that size category going? When you look down the road a couple of years or 5 years, and this is different than the quadcopters that so many people are buying and having and using in their homes. This is a full-size airplane.
Indeed it is.
What's the future for that category of UAV?
I think it actually is fairly bright. We are not in the quadcopter business. We feel as though there's sufficient people in that business.
It's a little saturated.
And we believe that we fill in that niche in that market, and we can fill it well. We have the capabilities as a company with just Navmar alone, and then teaming with Sonics Aerospace. I think we can fill that. To answer your question directly, what is the market? I think it'll remain research and development. As an example, working with people like GTRI or somebody like Georgia Tech Research Institute, somebody like that for air sampling, atmospheric research, weather, oceanic studies and things of that nature. I think that will remain, where a quadcopter cannot do that. As the Taros, we can send that out for like 800-900 miles and bring it back, where that's not in the quadcopter design suite.
Do you see that having use in like a search and rescue capability, because it does have long range and it can carry a lot of sensors?
Yes, we do. We've given that a lot of thought. And for emergency management, up coastlines and things of that nature, following a storm. Right now they send out a quadcopter. It does a nice job, takes some pictures, but only can go so far, whereas we could do the whole, half of the East Coast in one flight.
There's also, I would imagine, because I know NASA does a lot with their Global Hawks in hurricane research and hurricane tracking and those things. The Sonics aircraft is not going to be that robust, I don't imagine, to be able to penetrate, but you might have some opportunities there.
No, we're not nearly looking for that type of aircraft. However, we are arming it or equipping it with all-weather systems such as de-icing and all of those types of things to go into pretty rotten weather, for lack of a better phrase, and be able to be quite survivable. So to that extent, but to say like a Global Hawk to do hurricane tracking or something, no, nothing like that.
So what is the advantage then of having an all-weather drone?
Well, right now, could you send a quadcopter up in icing conditions? Probably not.
Probably not. Well, you could. It wouldn't fly very long.
Exactly. Whereas this should be operate quite nicely.
And then, what kind of research do you see being done in that regard using an all-weather drone?
Well, you know, anytime that you can get weather data where the weather's terrible, somebody's interested in that data. Especially things for icing. That's always a market for icing information.
What kind of systems have you developed specifically for not only the Taros but for your Tiger Shark aircraft as well?
Not a whole lot. Now keep in mind that the Tiger Shark, and to a greater extent the Taros, were built as platforms for you, the customer, to integrate whatever you want on it. So it's for lack of a better phrase, like a dump truck. You just load your stuff in here. Either you do it or we'll do it for you.
Okay.
But the basic design is to have as much space and as much power for you to use as necessary. And the Taros was built around that, where it has multiple access holes for multiple sensors and multiple radios and antennas and all kinds of acreage to put stuff, and it was done on purpose so that you could take that aircraft and integrate whatever you need. So we normally don't put that on there, though we can for sure.
Are you finding that customers are using commercial off-the-shelf technology to put into the aircraft and I know you haven't flown the Taros yet, but in the Tiger Shark, they're using COTS equipment that they can buy, place, and go?
Yes, but the answer to that is yes and yes. Yes, we can do that for COTS, but there are also some very sophisticated payloads, extremely sophisticated payloads. We've flown on it. And then yes, COTS stuff for sure, yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of the airplane, that it's not an aircraft that was designed around a sensor. The airplane was designed to carry as many sensors as you can find.
Well, it's very fascinating stuff, and it's. I have to tell you that I kind of came to this show expecting to see a lot more quadcopters and consumer drones, and I'm seeing more things like what it is that you're offering, and hybrid drones and things of that nature that were a part of the industry that I really didn't have a great deal of knowledge about. So I really appreciate the education that you and others have given me over the course of the past couple of days.
My pleasure.
So we're going to take a break and be right back. Jim Campbell will be back. He'll be talking with Chris Roberts from Parrot Industries. That's coming up next as we are live on Aero TV at AUVSI Exponential 2017. I'm Tom Patton. We'll be right back.
Aero-News Network's coverage of AUVSI's Exponential 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonic's Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Alrighty, we're back. You've been enjoying the charms of Tom Patton just long enough, and now you're stuck with me. I'm Jim Campbell with the Aero-News Network. We're pleased to be able to have a short conversation here with Chris Roberts, the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Parrot. You guys have been making some news this week. Why don't you update us on what's new at Parrot?
Okay, thank you very much. Just as a quick reminder, Parrot, we're a French company. First on the drone scene some 8 years ago, which seems a long time ago when we look at where the industry's come.
In drone years, that's a lifetime,
yeah.
Isn't it?
So we see a lot of difference from the first drone, the Parrot AR drone 8 years ago. But the show is very important for us this year. So we announce Parrot Professional this year. So Parrot Professional, it's the first time that we take the best of the best from the Parrot ecosystem. So the Parrot drone, the sensor, the control software and the post-analysis software, and we put those all into one simple-to-use kit, directly targeting the small to medium enterprise. So this is along the verticals of agriculture and construction. So it's the first time we take from all of the Parrot group of companies the best of the best and put these into one kit. I can give some examples. So
please do.
We present the new Parrot Disco Pro AG, and what this does on that ethos, it takes the proven consumer product, the Parrot Disco fixed wing drone. We add the advanced multispectral sensor, the Parrot Sequoia. We put the control software from Parrot company Pix4D Capture. And we also put the post-analysis software from Parrot company Aeronov First Plus, all into one simple-to-use, proven product directly aimed at the farmer. So a multi-purpose work tool that you can not only very easily fly, but also you can get key crop analysis and data straight in an NVDI index delivered straight in a very simple and easy-to-use format. So this is all the software, the drone, the sensor, all in one kit, $4,500 aimed directly at the farmer as a multi-purpose work tool. So not only can he do some crop crop analysis, but you can also use this drone to look at livestock and look at infrastructure on the farm as well. So this is the first product that we introduce, aimed very much at the farmer, at agriculture.
Agricultural just has popped up in the past year in particular as just teeming with possibilities.
Yeah. So, and what we do with this solution is give a real easy to use offering to give some vital information for your crop analysis and to help you better improve the management of your farm and crop. But we also launch a couple more products aimed at the construction vertical. So on the construction vertical, we launch the Parrot 3D modeling. So again, taking that same ethos, we take the proven, easy to fly Parrot Bebop drone, which is a quad. We add to that, again from Parrot Group Company, the Pix4D 3D modeling software. And so some examples of how you could use this. If you're in construction as an example, you can very simply and easily fly the product. It's all fully automated in terms of the flight planning through the Pix4D application. It will take a series of shots around the flight path and then it will deliver you, the construction worker, the 3D imaging. As a construction company, you can use that to do quantity surveying. So without even getting the ladders out of the truck, you can very easily make some calculations as to the materials required to do some re-roofing, etc. Some further uses for this product. From a marketing perspective, if you're a real estate company, you can get those virtual 360 tours very simply and very easily. If you're an architect, same thing. You have a client, they have a house for redevelopment. You can very easily do the flight path and then post receiving the 3D data file. You can put that straight into your CAD software and you can start designing the client's house. So this is the second new product for the construction vertical. We also announce another product, which is the Parrot Bebop Pro thermal, and this is not only for the construction vertical but also for public safety as well. So this embeds a thermal imaging camera onto the proven Bebop drone, and this means from a construction perspective the building company will be able to look at heat loss from windows, from roofs, from solar panel inspection, etc. And then also for public safety, your fire and rescue service, this would be a tool that most fire trucks could be equipped with. They can very quickly, very easily deploy
knowing where the hot spots is literally a life and death issue.
Exactly. So these are three of the products for the new sector, Parrot Professional. And Parrot Professional, it's a very important new area for our business. This is what we call building the bridge between the consumer business, which we've established around about 8 years ago, and the commercial offering. And we started to invest in the commercial offering in 2012 with Parrot companies SenseFly, Pix4D, and then later with Aero-News and MicroSense. And the Parrot Professional is the bridge between the two. So it's creating a range of products aimed very much at the users, the farmer, the real estate, the architect, the construction or public safety.
One of the biggest challenges we see as certain of the commercial markets are established and mission profiles are or at least coalesce to a point where manufacturers start building devices to suit, is how do we educate the potential end user as to not only what it can do, but how it fits into their operational spectrum. Sounds like that's quite the, to a certain extent, that may be the ultimate challenge, especially sales-wise, in order to bridge the gap between, here I have a device can do all this, and this is what it does for you.
It's a good question. We create and we work very closely with all of the whether it's the farmer or whether it's the fire service, and we're creating the product around identifying that need for them and the user case. So when we develop, for example, the Bebop Pro Thermal, we're working very closely with the fire services and actually developing the product, the app, the user with the person that is really using it. So yes, we need to demonstrate these user cases, but the verticals that we focus on, whether it's agriculture, whether it's construction, or whether it's public safety, we're creating solutions that you can use today for these challenges, or to make them work more efficiently, safer, and working in new ways. This is what we are trying to educate with doing this.
Well, it's certainly a strong position to take at this stage of the game. This industry's been wandering around between what's been heretofore recreational and then building out of recreational, as well as not only the commercial applications, but how they're going to take very specific commercial applications, develop the product lines, and then develop the market. What are you hearing and what are you learning from the market so far?
We're learning that the market is, especially in these sectors that we're focusing on, we're not trying to go everywhere and do everything. We've picked some key verticals that we're focusing on. They're ready for such solutions, but they want easy to use, proven solutions that are relatively affordable as well. And they are ready to embrace this if it can make everyday working easier, more efficient and safe. But they want an easy to deploy, easy to use product that is going to make their life a lot simpler, that they've got to overcome that barrier.
Are you finding the regulatory environment right now able to keep up with what you're doing and the markets that you're in the process of building?
I think with the speed the market has grown, or the drone industry has grown, yes, of course, regulation has had to catch up, and this is normal with any new technology. We've seen this in many other industries. We've working very closely with legislators to make sure, but it's our job to educate again the user as to where they can and where they can't use, and also give them the right information and potentially the right training and these sorts of things to make sure that they can conduct for their business use in the right environment.
Any surprises so far?
On the regulatory side?
Well, on these markets that you're establishing, and as you're going forth, and the information that's being imparted back to you, are you finding anything surprising at this point?
I find the willingness of those verticals to adopt the new technology is exciting. Especially when you look at an industry such as agriculture, when it's in theory so traditional, that they are
as conservative as it gets.
But from a tech perspective, if they can see the real benefit of what you can do to manage crop, the food chain, etc., they're very, very willing to embrace new technology. And this, in a certain way, is in an industry that we all know is very traditional and very well established. This is, I think, this is a very good sign when we see this willingness to embrace.
Walk me through. I've got a modest farm. I'm looking for a way to be able to manage my acreage and my crops more effectively and keep up with the times. It's not just going to the local drone shop and picking something up and running home and going to work. How does a customer not only process the information but build his own workflow with you? How does this occur?
It's a very good question, and this is why we put together an end-to-end solution.
Gotcha.
So, as I mentioned, within the Parrot Professional offering, it's putting everything into one kit. So you get the control software, you get the drone, you get the advanced sensor, and you get the post-analysis software. And as you mentioned, in a certain way, the flying is just one element of it. Yes, you've then got to capture the data, but what do you do with that data once you've captured it? So what we deliver is in the standard kit, in the $4,500 kit with the Disco Pro AG, you have the post-analysis software included for 12 months from Aeronov First Plus. Okay. That will give you, in a very easy to understand MVDI file, the basic information.
Okay.
Having said that, if you want to then start to get analysis or advice or recommendation, you can then option up into some additional services that can then start to, be it through Aeronov, a Parrot company, or Mica Sensors, another one, we can then start to either build trend information, historical information, and then we can also start to give you specific advice and recommendations aimed at a particular crop. So these are value add depending exactly what you want to do with your crop or your land or your farm. So this is how you can then build to exactly what you want to achieve.
from being able to walk around AUVSI 2017, how do you see the industry right now as a member of that community? What are the impressions you're getting from this show?
I see the show this year has grown again. I refer back probably to a couple of years ago or 3 years ago when the show was very much military focused, obviously the heritage of UAV. Now I see so many different verticals, I see so many different areas of the industry, suppliers. There's a huge ecosystem that is growing, there's a lot of innovation, and it's an industry that is really on on the brink of fostering so many other sort of sub-industries and everything else with this. What I see much more is the ecosystem around the drone in terms of just the component supplies or the software. There's so many different areas of it that are starting to grow.
It seems to have made an interesting transition where before it was all about the vehicle, now it's all about the mission. And now we're in the process of transitioning from the mission to the data. The Intel presentation the other day, where data is the new oil, could not be more on point. One of the things that was emphasized to me in the beginning by people a lot smarter than me was the machines are nothing. They're always going to find a way to do things. It's ultimately not only what you do, but how you develop and utilize the data that results that's going to change. I mean, we're not talking about changing a transportation system or industries. We're talking about changing societies here, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. The planning of the flight, the actual drone, and then the sensing, but the data is then, as I mentioned earlier, is what do you then do with that data in a very easy way, and then the interpretation of that data. The data is the piece that we see much more of, and then the analysing of it, and then the advice and everything else that's given. So the outcome, and that's. I think that's something that the software and also the data is one of the more prevalent parts that we see over the last couple of years here.
Outstanding. Well, for folks that are looking for more information about Parrot Professional, where can they get that?
So Parrot.com is the good benchmark, and they'll see our full solutions for business, our full business solutions.
Alrighty. Any other areas that we should be looking at in the future for you to be concentrating on, or too early?
Today it's a big announcement with Parrot Professional, and this is a clear strategy for Parrot where we have our consumer business. We start this building the bridge, the prosumer bridge for Parrot Professional, and then we also have our clear commercial offer with Parrot companies such as SenseFly, Pix4D, Aero-News and MicroSense. So we're very clear on these three segments as we look to grow the overall ecosystem for Parrot.
Sounds like you're going to be busy.
It's a busy time, yes.
Chris, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for joining us here on Aero TV. Alrighty, folks, we're going to take a short break. We've got, actually we were supposed to close about 1 o'clock, but we've got an additional guest that we thought was important enough to extend things just a little bit. So if you don't mind, we'll take a few moments. We are live from XPONENTIAL 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in beautiful downtown Dallas, Texas. We'll be right back. back with our final guests of AUVSI 2017 live coverage of Exponential with the Aero-News Network. I'm here with Stefan Blondin from Prestigious. We are going to be talking obviously about their impact on the UAV industry. Stefan, tell me what's new for AUVSI 2017. What are you here to concentrate on in this market?
Okay, so essentially I have two stories to tell you, Jim. So the first one is we've just introduced a new product that's called UAV Craft. And we thought that one of the best way to do this would be to come with some of the partners that have been instrumental in helping us develop the product. So what we're actually showing on our booth space this year is 3 different partners, ourselves, Prestigious, as well as La Flamme Aero, and another company called NGC Aerospace. So La Flamme Aero are introducing...
You're playing with some interesting players there, aren't you?
Indeed.
We know what NGC stands for.
Actually, it is a different NGC, so it's not your usual Northrop Grumman. Right. Interestingly, this is a company who's really into this space of autonomous navigation and guidance. These guys have been very active in the space industry, and they're bringing some of their knowledge to steer some of the autonomous sense and avoid capabilities in the La Flamme helicopter. So the La Flamme helicopter is an autonomous helicopter. It's called the LX-300. It's essentially
that's a twin rotor machine that we've seen here.
Twin rotor, flexible blades with the ability to lift up to 90 kilograms for periods of time that can extend from 1 hour to up to 8 hours. Yeah, serious payload. And we got involved with those folks as part of a Canadian research project. And we thought it would be interesting to use the kind of tools that we normally apply to the simulation and training industry, but see how it could be used to design an actual UAV platform and UAS platform. So essentially what I can tell you is that with La Flamme they've been experimenting with all sorts of different form factors for the flying platform. So different shapes, different types of blades, of wings, positioning of all those things, up till the point where they were happy that they had the right design and could start going into more advanced stages. In a similar fashion, we've got the NGC folks who have been able to develop their navigation system in a fully virtual environment where they've been able to fly their sensors on the virtual UAV and try them for different types of missions and tasks in different types of environments. So what's great about this tool is it's not an actual UAV from our perspective, UAV Craft. It's really a collection of 11 different tools that we normally offer as software development kits to some of the large defense system integrator. It consists of things such as terrain, our database content production, which a lot of military government use to ingest geolocated data, elevation imagery, vectors to build some of the large area databases they use for military training, all the way to through our sensor products with the ability to emulate radars, infrared at very advanced levels of realism. So we thought it'd be great to put all of those things together in what we thought of initially as a reference platform. We wanted to build a simulator that go high in terms of quality. You know, for fixed wing, you could have somebody who would want to reach some very high full flight certification levels, or on the helicopter side, maybe level 5, 6, or even 7 in some cases.
All right.
But we wanted to make it really easy to use and pre-integrated everything, because what we see is a lot of our customers end up actually doing the same type of integration work, and we thought it would be a great value to bring to the industry to do most of the work while keeping this philosophy of an open system. So pretty much all the components in the system can be parameterized for certain characteristics, but they can also be extended or even in most cases extracted or replaced by somebody's own algorithm, somebody's own hardware, or some of the research tools such as MatWorks Simulinks as an example. So this creates a very open, very flexible environment that customers use in different use cases. One of them would be a manufacturer who would be interested, like the ones of La Flamme and NGC, in testing some new concepts, new equipment concepts. Obviously, we've got people who are interested in building ground control stations with some of the tools that have been used that have certifiability. So as an example, one of the components we use is actually the software tool that's used by many airframe manufacturer and avionics systems manufacturer to design the glass cockpits that you find in actual aircrafts today. So it's got some pretty good credibility there. And also bring the computer generated forces, the sensors, the visualization that we bring together. So some of our customers may see a ground control station in it. Some others may see a way to train their customers, especially in this environment where people acquire and get to the point where they've got hybrid fleets of platforms, hybrid fleets of sensors. And we think that it becomes an increasing challenge for many of the training schools and operators to be able to train and maintain their expertise on all of those systems. So that could be a way for them to converge on a unified platform.
What are you learning from the response here at AUVSI so far?
Good stuff. Definitely, we're more active normally in a different space, the military space. So a lot of people come to us and seem surprised that we have all these tools and they don't necessarily know our names. But certainly there seems to be an increasing amount of interest for training, the convergence of training. Also something that we've started discussing with some of the customers, but is the concept of potentially having manned and unmanned teaming arrangements. We think that's something that's going to come in the future where, you know, you may want to use a manned platform because you got precise control over specific parameters of what you're trying to do, but you want to be helped by a second pair of eyes or extra eyes. So certainly that's the kind of concepts that we've been exploring with some of our customers.
Optionally piloted.
The other area of great interest to us and hopefully to the market is we're seeing more and more customers who want to have some level of autonomy in the way that they exploit the data that they collect from UAVs. I mean, most people bother putting a UAV up in the sky to collect some form of information or some form of imagery. And essentially, we are working at developing ways to build these things on a massive scale, because some of our customers want to operate over very, very large areas, and especially the ones who are interested in using sensor simulation. So they're interested in not just having something that looks good from up there, but also something that has the kind of response that you get from a radar system or the kind of response that you get from an infrared system as the heat accumulates and dissipates at different time of day. So we've been putting a lot of efforts in building some of those new types of databases that are multi-purpose and really have more than just viewing or measuring capabilities.
Sounds like you guys have been busy.
We've been pretty busy, yes.
Final question. As you look out at AUVSI and the Exponential Trade Show from somebody who's been a part of different segments of the industry, what impression do you have or is certainly making itself known to you in regards to both the state, the health, and the direction of this industry?
I mean, you certainly sense a love of energy in this market. I mean, we all understand the very disruptive aspect of UAVs. Some of them will be positive, some of them will be negative, but I think you're increasingly seeing that the use of flying platforms for inspection, for supporting of police forces, firefighting forces, it's just going to be very in all spheres of our lives. So you can certainly see it materializing quite rapidly at a show like AUVSI.
Interesting stuff. Stefan, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining
Jim.
us here on
A
Aero
real
TV.
pleasure.
Alrighty, folks, if you'll bear with me for another minute or so, we are going to wrap this up. It has been an absolutely fascinating couple of days. When we first envisioned being able to do this with AUVSI, I think the proper discussions were had actually at Oshkosh with Brian Wynne, and then with a number of great folks that we worked with at the organization. Mike Grayson, Tom McMahon, Brett Davis, Heather Lee, so many of them. A great group of folks, tremendous professionals. We're very excited about what we've been able to do here, and more important, what we're going to be able to do in the future. If you're not already aware, we are AUVSI's media partner, producing the Airborne-Unmanned program weekly, and with some developments hoping to be on the way here shortly, possible additional frequency and other programming. We also produce the AMA Drought Report for the Academy of Model Aeronautics, and of course every day, Airborne Unlimited. The Aero-News network is here to serve all aspects of the industry, but we couldn't do it without a phenomenally gifted group of people. Chris Odom and Bree Cross on the cameras, and of course our hosts on various airborne programming. Nathan Cremasino kind of trying to put everything together and keeping it in one place and making sure nothing blows up. Tom Patton in editorial. My wife Masako, who has just put on some serious mileage here at the show, getting things done and making sure guests show up. Mike Turner on marketing, and the inevitable pep talk. And to the tens of thousands, actually more, who read, view, or listen to Aero-News, Airborne, Aero TV, you name it, we're tremendously pleased to be able to work with you. Keep the emails coming, let us know what we're doing, but more important, let us know what we can be doing better. We learn more from the critique than anything else. So for the final time this week, we have been live from XPONENTIAL 2017 at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. It's been our distinct privilege and pleasure, and I will almost be able to say that contiguously, to serve you, to entertain you, to educate you, and we will see you, if not before live, we'll certainly see you at Oshkosh. For Aero-News, thank you so much.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International's XPONENTIAL 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonic's Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.
Continental Motors Group. Manned and unmanned, Continental has been a pivotal part of aviation and aerospace history and wants to be a part of your mission. Gas or diesel, certified or experimental, Continental is investing in your future. www.continentalmotors.aero.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us.